This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan.
The least knowledgeable sports talk person that I've ever heard.
Eric Graham.
He's notoriously fussy.
Sam Ballard Jr.
He has no idea what he's talking about.
Nick Rendo.
He falls asleep while he's on the air.
And Josh Matthews.
The only time he ever goes viral is when he looks like a buffoon.
And now, back to the show.
Well, everybody, welcome to another edition of the RPM Podcast. I'm Eric Brennan, happy to be back with you. I know it's been a while, but we got a lot of good people on board with us here tonight. Beginning with our very special guest, we'll kick things off. We'll introduce everybody else in just a couple of moments. But joining us tonight to promote a big event that he has coming up in just a couple of weeks' time, the Triple B 100 at his very own Triple B Ranch, the 2000 NASCAR Truck Series champion, 2000 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, and a 19-time winner on the NASCAR Cup side. Greg Biffle is joining us tonight. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. We're really happy to have you. And this is an event which I've actually begun to notice a little bit on my own. And I think one of the big reasons is the big social media push that you guys have had. You have your own Instagram handle, your own Twitter handle. There's an event page on Facebook. First of all, what is the Triple B 100? How long has it been going on? And why is it so important to you?
Well, it's really just a lot of fun. And, you know, after racing on the NASCAR circuit for, 7/8 of the year, it's the first break that I would get, is the Thanksgiving weekend and shortly after it. So some friends of mine and I decided we wanted to build a dirt track at my mountain property. So we were just going to take and race some old shitter field cars around this racetrack. And so I cut out a racetrack with my dozer, and we got these old county cop cars from the auction, and we had more fun than I've had in years. And so that was about 10 years ago. And so every year it's been getting bigger and bigger. And then I started letting like locals come in. They would get some cars from the wrecking yard and come in and I bought new cars every year. I buy a few more at the auction and prep them and get them ready. So now I have about 13 or 15 cars. My buddies come and drive and other people, but now it's getting big. So there's probably going to be 25, 30 cars. A lot of people. I let everybody, all the locals come and watch, but it's a lot. It's the most redneck fun I've ever had in my life.
Well, it kind of goes with how things have been for you over the last couple of weeks. I mean, 24 hours of Lemons events, school bus races at Hickory, but this is your baby. This is something, as you said, started 10 years ago, and now it's starting to grow. And I mentioned the social media perspective of it. I also saw that this is all going to be live streamed, not only on Facebook, Twitter, but also and along with Periscope. Why is that? Is the objective to get this a little bit bigger? Is it to show that some of these big league stock car drivers do know how to have fun when they get back to their roots? Why the big push, and how big can this thing get?
Well, and that's it. It's I want to share it with a lot of people. Like last year, we streamed it live, and it was on Periscope, and Dale Jr. was watching and some other guys. And I talked to Junior later, and he's like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I watched the entire race from the in-car to other stuff. And so I just want to, it's just fun for me. So I want to get it out there. I want to get it to be a big event, get a lot of people to come. We're doing a bit of a charity component for this year. And I get people to come and cook food for everybody and all that. So any donations we collect, we're going to, donate. So it's a matter of having a lot of fun, letting people see what it's about. Because so many people, I talk about it the last half of the season, the last 5 or 6 races of the season or something. And people are like, what is this? What is this? So it's a way that we can let everybody, enjoy and see the race.
I also noticed that there's been a lot of interaction going on between you and your team. Also, you got the website up and running where there's some merchandise available. Tell us more where people can learn more about the race itself, what type of products you got for sale. And you said there's a charitable component on it. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, we've we were going to collect donations at the event, and we're going to donate half the money to Lake Norman Humane, which is a organization I'm part of in the Mooresville, Greater Charlotte area. We have a shelter that we're upfitting and whatnot, and then we're going to donate half the money to the local first responders, fire department, and police. So we're going to split the charity up. And, we just wanted to make it fun. So we made some T-shirts. So we made some koozies with the Triple B 100 on them and made a limited amount of them. And we figured, we'd put them up for sale. And it's so easy to make a website today. So we did, tripleb100.com and have all the merchandise on there. Our entire 4 pieces of merchandise are on the website. So we're just making it fun, that's what it's about. It's about having fun. We're having fun with it, trying to blow it up, make it big, that kind of thing.
Now, as far as the location of the event, it's on your very own Triple B ranch in Rutherfordton, North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I own a ranch in just outside of Morganton, North Carolina, and that's where the property's at. And the track is down front, close to the road, so it's easy to see.
I have a question. Is there what kind of permits or insurance do you need to hold an event like that? I don't want to, blow it up, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, you should probably have something in place. I have absolutely nothing. So take your risk into your own hands. You sign your life away. I have my attorney draw up a fairly extensive waiver. So if anything happens to you, if you get cancer or a tick or anything, decapitated in a rollover accident, lose your left leg, any of that stuff, I'm not responsible for.
Greg, we inquired about bringing a car down. We're actually bringing down a 1983 Chevy Impala, and
I love it.
Yeah, and when we inquired about it, I loved your rule book. You pretty much said this is the spirit of the rule. 4-door, rear-wheel drive, junkyard car. That's all we want. If you bring anything bigger or built better than that, we're going to fill the car up with bricks on you. I like that rule.
Yeah, the spirit of the rule is, we just started out racing, field cars, and people want to bring dirt late models or modifieds or, even a street stock version of a dirt car. And we want it to be fun, and we want it to be just field cars and, show up and have a good time. So, we want to make it cost effective, fan friendly. And so that's kind of the spirit of the rule.
Well, we got a New Jersey entry now that you can add to your list for the Triple B 100. Greg, before we let you go, I know you got some plans you got to take care of tonight. We talked about it a little bit earlier. 24 Hours of Lemons, of course, your very own event, school bus races, road racing, stadium super trucks. Greg, what else do you have in store for, I don't want to call it retirement, but I would say your post-NASCAR career? What else you got going on?
What he's trying to ask is what car are you going to race at Turkey Derby this weekend?
I wish. Well, so what I've been doing a little bit of UTV racing as well. So, we were doing some sand outlaw type racing, and I won an event out in Idaho about 6 weeks ago prior to the other events I ran. But I'm really hook, line, and sinker on this Lemons racing. It's a tremendous amount of fun. You race 2 8-hour days. They actually have some 24-hour events. It's fun to do with your buddies and some other amateur drivers, and so I'm building a couple cars right now. I think we're going to race Louisiana, Noah Motorsports Park on the end of March. And then there's actual 24-hour race the end of April in Kershaw, South Carolina at Carolina Motorsports Park. So those are 2 Lemons races I've kind of got on my radar that I'm getting ready for. That's kind of my next bit of racing coming up.
Some people ask how you define a true racer. I think if you look at what Greg Biffle's been up to, your answer is right there. December 8, 2018, the Triple B 100. For more information, visit tripleb100.com. Greg, cannot thank you enough for taking the time to come on with us and talk about your race. Thank you again for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. I love your podcast. I'm glad you guys have me on.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
a lot, Greg.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
We'll see
You
you
too.
in a couple
See you
weeks.
guys. All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Once again, that is Greg Biffle, who will be hosting the Triple B 100, which we just broke some news as we have both of Edge of Divorce Motorsports drivers, as they're just about a couple days away from wrapping up their first tenure as a full-time team effort with the two cars. Nancy and Scott Riggleman, how you guys doing?
Good.
So the plan is for you guys to go run a car. Is that correct at that Triple B 100?
Yeah, we got Turkey Derby this weekend, so we're going to get through that weekend first, and then I have a 1983 Chevy Impala that I picked up for junk, and the only bad thing about the car I got, it's only a 6-cylinder, but whatever. But yeah, once the Turkey Derby's over, I'm going to roll that car into the shop and just put it on the lift and just go through it to make sure the brake lines are good or fuel lines are good, and maybe put valve cover gaskets on, change the oil, change the fuel filter, tune it up a little bit, just the way it runs. It does run pretty good. I've been driving it up and down the street here and everything, and it does run.
What plates are on it?
Yeah. So,
Nancy, are you bringing your fire suit and helmet as well?
Yes, I am. You have to have a passenger in the car for the whole race.
Oh, wow.
And the passenger, I believe, has to run 20 laps of the 100 laps. So we actually have to switch drivers sometime in the race.
I love it.
It just gets better and better.
Yeah. And I know he has a halfway break for it's a cocktail break, a beer break.
I love it.
I love it too. I think it's really just scaled back. We're going to go. We're going to have a good time. There's no pressure. He also, part of it, they let all the girls race afterwards. I guess they have like a 20 lapper. So I'll go back to my roots.
No. You race factory stocks. You do not qualify for the powder puff. I'm going to stand by that.
I will start last.
Now, I will tell you, it's since moving to Charlotte, one of the popular themes here is like those speakeasy bar and restaurants, the places that kind of take you back to the Prohibition days where it's kind of hidden. That's what this race seems like. It's kind of like no real rules, no real authority. He kind of talked about it when he mentioned, he's got his lawyer documenting everything to make sure that he's covered where he doesn't have to worry about a thing. So it's kind of cool. You don't get much more retro than that.
We remember last year too. After they had it, they said, "Well, we would really love to announce the winner, but we're really not sure who won." Like they don't take it serious. They don't, they don't have a finishing order or nothing like that. It's really just a good time, and we can't wait to do it, man. I mean, we looked at it. It's about 11 hours from our house. We're going to tow 11 hours to drive a junk car in Greg Biffle's field, but it's just going to be a good time. We're just going to make it a weekend out of it and have a great time.
And we had actually talked about. Before we decided to go, I'm like, we should ask Greg to drive my car for like Sunday at Turkey Derby, but I'm not giving up my seat.
But yeah, what happened was we talked to him last year, after we saw it on YouTube and everything, and Nancy had messaged them and said, "Hey, we'd love to come down and do it." They're like, "Oh yeah, you're more than welcome to whenever you want." And then it was kind of forgotten about. Like a year went by, and then they announced the date again, and Nancy just shot him a message again. Like, "Yeah, we remember you guys. You're still more than welcome to come." So I sent him a picture of because the rule is, they wanted a full-size 4-door American car, Right. Well, that one enduro car I have it's a Malibu 4-door. And so we sent him a picture of that. And, Greg's girlfriend at first like, yeah, bring it. That thing's awesome. Bring it. And then Greg's like, that's like a real race car. If you bring that thing, we're going to fill it full of bricks and slow you down.
I said, that picture makes the car look a lot nicer than it is.
So then I had that old Impala laying around. I kept it around because it ran, and I'm like, maybe we'll do like a junk car race with it up at Evergreen or Grandview or something like that. So we had it. So I'm like, here, Nance, send them this picture. We sent the pictures like, yeah, that's the one. Bring that one. So,
That's really cool.
I think they mostly run the Crown Vics.
Yeah, a lot of them have the Crown Vics. Like he says, he buys them from like a government auction, like a local government auction where he gets old cop cars and stuff. But
wait, wasn't it the one video of him when they found that like junker like in somebody's like side yard?
Yeah, remember that?
And it was so much fun just to watch that video for me because I mean it went at least kind of viral, I think. But I loved it because he was so excited about this, old beat up hunk of crap kind of car. And I'm like, that's how it should be. These full fendered, like I know we're going to talk about Bowman Gray and all that. Like, I'm sad I didn't get to ask him what he thought of Bowman Gray. But I mean, these fendered, basically like the factory stocks and just being so excited over that, like, and the enduros. I was like that. that made me feel so much better. To see a top level NASCAR guy still get excited about really like roots racing. If you want,
you know what's cool about it too? Like I noticed, like all the enduro cars he has and like junk car race cars and stuff, they're all Fords. Like he's still a Ford guy. Like he raced Ford for Jack Roush all these years, and he's still staying true to that. Like all the junk cars he finds are Fords. That's what he's racing.
It might actually be in the contract. Like even after you're retired, you still have to.
We own you.
Well, I remember Dale Jr. Like he actually they did this. Interview with him. It was kind of like a behind the scenes thing with him, and he actually said that in his contract it said that if he was like he could not be seen drinking any beer other than Budweiser.
Right.
At the time,
Like he has his own beer.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like that. I'm not actually that surprised that something like that could be in a contract. Even though I mean, you're talking he retired 2016, so we're now like 2 years removed, but. At the same time, I don't know. I mean, if he is a Ford guy, great. If it's a contract thing, or if that's just maybe he had the deal and that's what they kind of gave him, or I don't know. But
I just think he's a Ford guy. I think he's a dedicated guy, and he's made his living driving Ford. So why not keep racing Fords? He likes Fords.
Yeah.
Same with me. I like Chevys. That's why I'm bringing in a Impala down there.
Now,
Didn't him and Kyle Busch do an enduro at a county fair?
Yeah, Greg did, and Kyle Busch just went there to watch him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you look at everything Greg's been up to ever since, I think Greg also, his last year in the series was 2016. So, it just looks like a lot of fun, everything that he's been going on with. And I'm looking forward to that. And I know Scott and Nancy, you guys got to look forward to Turkey Derby, but this is not that far away. I'm looking forward to not only hearing the lead up to it and also when you guys come back, how it all went. So a little bit of housekeeping before we keep going. Greg had a really short time frame that he could talk with us, so we didn't get into our traditional introductory period. Happy to be back. I'm not dead. I'm back, hopefully back for good, but it's been a while.
I was going to say back from probation.
Yeah. We did get a chance to talk to, as you mentioned, we have both drivers from the Edge of Divorce Motorsports team, both Scott and Nancy Riggleman. Hi again, guys.
Hi.
Also in the Matthews Family Studios, we have Josh Matthews. Hi, Josh.
I just got out of the shower.
And I know that Tim Riggleman is there as well, but I can't see anybody else. So did Tim fly solo, or he had his co-pilot with him?
He has two co-pilots. Yeah, actually, he has a co-pilot and a bombardier.
Hi, girls. How
or would you prefer
doing?
to be a navigation officer? Never mind.
Which two were there?
The twins.
The twins, Bailey and Alexis.
I already lost track of which is which, but they're here.
Full house. The only one we're missing, of course, is Sam, only because his flight got delayed, and he's put something on Twitter about being stuck on a plane with a bunch of Yankees. So I'll get him back for that when he comes back to North Carolina.
He started saying y'all too. Yeah, actually, I will say after listening to Biffle, and especially in this kind of a setting where hopefully he was a little bit or felt relaxed. There wasn't that southern drawl that you expect from like a NASCAR driver. I mean, like Truex from Jersey, where he should be saying New York and quarter and all that stuff.
But Truex was from South Jersey, 609 there.
Yeah, he's a 609er like I am now, and it's weird. Like that actually sounds like Alabama. So it was just interesting to hear.
Yeah. And Biffle was a West Coast guy, so it's I told a coworker of mine, my accent's never going. I turn it off when I have to talk about race cars.
I tell you what, your accent isn't bad at all, though. I mean, if I met you off the street, I wouldn't think you were from New York.
It can be.
It could be North Jersey, honestly.
Yeah.
It's especially when I got a good buzz going. It's
transitioning over to Homestead. Let's start talking about NASCAR. I just want to point something out, Josh. What did I tell you? When I first started doing the show with you, I said the championship, they might as well just get rid of the points.
Whoever has to win Homestead.
Whoever wins Homestead is the champion. And what happened in all three divisions down there?
Yes. Well, I mean, you figure every team is going to put it all out, including relegating Denny Hamlin to a different pit stop or pit stall. Oh, I think Greg actually just signed out finally. He's like, oh, not this Homestead crap.
I talk about jump cars. I'm out.
But I mean, they're going all out, putting everything in because it's all on the line now. And so Denny Hamlin was forced to give up his pit stall to. Let me hear it. Go ahead.
There's a couple
Wrong.
Now, here's the thing. Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski could have won the pole and did the same thing for Joey Logano if they qualified second. Truex, maybe if he qualified second, they would have. I don't know if they would have been that generous to him because that alliance is kind of severed now. But he's going to be a Gibbs driver, give or take. Harvick, same ththing. Almirola, Kurt Busch. Why am I forgetting the Ford Stewart Haas car? Oh, this is going to bother me. Either way, Clint Boyer. The Gibbs organization put themselves in a position to do that. They didn't really break the rules. I mean,
no, I'm not saying that it was against the rules. I'm just saying that,
the term forced, I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. Plus, it didn't help
you don't
Kyle.
think Denny Hamlin wanted to win the race?
All day long.
Hey, it helped him that one pit stop, though. He came out first, though, on that one.
Yeah, he had one good one. They had pit road problems all day.
They did.
But here's the thing, too. He qualified second, so he was still going to get a good pit spot. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he qualified 10th and was going to get a lousy pit spot. I mean, he was going to get the second best pit spot stall instead of the first best one. So that really didn't bother me at all. That was a non-story in my eyes.
Plus, I would argue, due to the fields being the way that they are today, where I'd say the drivers, no offense to them, but it's more of a gap or a disparity in speeds from teams, I would say that some of the cars that are guaranteed to finish, say, 28th or worse, they're going to be off the lead lap by the time you make your first pit stop anyway. So you go from only having 4 pit stalls where there are openings up ahead to now having, let's say, 8 or 10 pit stalls of an opening ahead. It's the number one pit stall is still a big deal, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as it was, say, 5 or 7 years ago. So I will tell you though, Josh, to your defense, the fact that was a storyline to kick off the weekend is kind of sad. It's a championship weekend, and we're all talking about a pit stall. I mean, that's not what the conversation should be about.
Maybe not, but you had your I'm sorry. Harvick didn't qualify as well. And Scott and I had agreed on the last show. It was Harvick's championship to lose, and they. And I mean, all right, great. It's a team effort. We know that. But they didn't qualify all that well. He was kind of mid-pack, kind of, he was outside the top 10 for quite a while. They got better. But, I mean, and then Truex fell off early on. Not terribly far, but, but then it was, I'm just saying, Kyle was up there and Logano from the get-go. But then Logano didn't have that long-run car. And, I mean, there's one thing I'm disappointed about, but we'll go into that in a minute, I'm sure.
So the way the race kind of played out, and for many of you probably watched it or know what happened already, there seemed to be, first of all, the fact that I'm usually not a fan of late race starts. I think the Daytona 500 start at 12 noon. I think the Indy 500 start at 11 a.m.
Oh, yeah. When did Homestead get lights?
I think 2000 might have even come with the renovation. I think I know they're running.
I know I watched it last year, but I was like, I don't know why, but I couldn't remember there being lights.
Actually,
I thought it was
the race that Biffle won in 2005. They finished under the lights. I think that was the first year they finished under the lights.
I saw him win at Dover.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just yay.
But the fact that they start that race as late as they do, that really changed the complexion of it because it looked as though Harvick and Busch were stronger when the sun was out. And then once the sun kind of faded behind the grandstands, that's when Logano and Truex really got their momentum going. Truex, though, needed like 25 laps to get his car up to speed.
He had a long-run car. Logano had a short-run car.
Yeah. And then Truex was beating them by a lot. Like once they got within that 25 to 45 lap window, Truex was beating them.
He pulled away like 2 seconds. From them before like a yellow came out, and the caution at the end kind of. I mean that was a deciding factor. It was. So Busch has a bad pit stop, puts him off sequence with the leaders. He stays out. Everybody pits. He needs the yellow. Lo and behold, his teammate Daniel Suarez gets turned around off the front bumper of Brad Keselowski and gives him that caution. That was another big talking point where some people said that it's a bit of a conspiracy that the two dumped the 19. An article came out today saying that there's data that proves that Keselowski's wreck couldn't have been intentional, whatever it may be. When I first saw the spinning car, I was a little bit skeptical, but I'm kind of looking back on it and saying it's kind of sad that we think that everything has a backstory to it. The problem is that, and we've talked about this before. It's so like you go back to the MWR scandal.
Yep.
Of affecting the outcome of the race. Well, the thing is, everything affects the outcome. I mean, a fan, in theory, by throwing garbage onto the track, could affect the outcome of the race because
or climbing the grandstands.
Yes, exactly.
They threw that caution at Richmond for that.
We need a caution! Quick, climb the fence. I mean, you can in theory do that, and you have teammates. And if teammates don't work together and, oh, hey, yeah, give me a push on this restart. I'm going to need it, stuff like right there, you are affecting the race. But that's what racing is. So where do you draw the line as to that's not allowed and that's just part of the sport? That's my issue with it. So we're talking about whether or not it's a scandal. Well, you know what? Even if it was, I don't know. Is that part of racing? Was that because, it was a Ford? Was it because, or was it, was it a team thing? Was it who knows? Or did he just not like Flores and nobody cares because Flores need to get on TV one last time before he's out next year?
He may have a home, but nevertheless, that's what happened. And again, upon further review,
do you agree at all? I mean that you said it's.
I just think they went 4 wide and wrecked. I don't think
exactly.
To me, it looked like an unfortunate, like you said, 4 wide got messy.
Yeah, I don't think anything was intentional there to change the outcome of the race or help teammates or anything like that. It just they wrecked. They went 4 wide and didn't make it.
It looks like a racing deal.
But Eric, do you agree that every little thing like that we have to figure out a line, or that it is kind of a blurry thing?
And that's kind of the point that I'm getting to. It's a sad, it's more of a product of the way that we view everything in society today, is that you can't believe everything you see or take it at face value anymore. I mean, you kind of want to read into every minor detail and every bit that goes into putting the story together. And like Scott said, and there you go. Like Scott said, it looked just like a racing deal, and it set the stage for a restart with about 15 laps to go, and it played right into Logano's hand. Blew by Truex. And the biggest thing, and I mean, granted, we're all kind of from Jersey. I guess I'm an adopted Jersey guy. We're all kind of have that
right now.
That little bit of a love for Truex because he carries that hometown banner for many of us. He kind of called his shot in Martinsville. It never came to fruition, and Logano was the guy that got around him on the outside with 12 laps to go to win that championship. I mean,
that car couldn't hold the bottom.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah. Martin ain't wrecking nobody. He's too much. Yeah, he's not that guy. He's too much of a class.
Martin Truex.
Yeah, he wants to beat him fair and square. He's not wrecking anybody to win anything.
I agree, but I was kind of annoyed that when Logano was going by, he didn't at least try to run him into the wall a little bit or mess him up a little bit.
I think Logano passed him so fast he didn't even have a chance to block him or anything like that.
I think a few laps before they touched. I think a few laps before coming off two, they bounced off each other.
You know what? I've been in that situations racing against a rival. And I want nothing more to blow by them and beat them fair and square because you can rub that in their face. Anybody can wreck anybody, but to blow by somebody and flat out beat them on the racetrack after the race, you can say, yeah, I beat you.
And how many times can it turn right around on you the following week? If you did that and then all of a sudden you get turned by that person the following week. And I don't want to be in that position either. And really, I'm not for that type of racing because that's how I look at the modifieds is you got to ram the guy and get him out of the way to move forward. You can't do that side-by-side good racing. But, more on Bowman Gray later.
The only thing I was a little upset about after the race was none of the other guys congratulated Joey for winning the championship. They just told their story and that was it. I was hoping, they should at least congratulate the guy for winning the championship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. And it's
let's say with the exception of Truex because of that, because they want to hype up that whole incident. So
I understand that, but so Truex, once it's all, in the heat of the battle, you say stuff and do stuff like that. But when it's all said and done, I think even Truex could have said, congratulations to Joey, he beat us, he won.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny because I know maybe my news feed will be a little bit Truex heavy, sure, but I really don't see many Logano fans, period. Is there a reason? And I'm not talking about like this year they had a beef or something like that. Is there a reason that Logano's just not popular?
Yeah, a lot of people thinks he was, he started racing so young in the bigger leagues, and everybody just thought he was another rich kid coming in the sport. But he's really not. He's earned it. He's raced quarter midgets and go karts and legend cars. He's come up through the ranks. He's the kid's from Connecticut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is it that Northeast hatred that people seem to have?
No, it's the young, and his dad was a handful too when he first started. His dad was always picking fights, and he even got his hard card pulled a few times for starting trouble in the pits. So he was. No, everybody just looked at him as the whiny rich kid, with the rich dad, and he hasn't overcome that yet. And it's a shame because I hear a lot of stuff about Joey that's good. He's not a bad guy.
He was very nice.
Yeah, Nancy's met him.
And from what I gather in the social circles down here, he's liked amongst many, many people.
Right.
He's, and also I happen to listen to another podcast, Door Bumper Clear, which has Joey's spotter, TJ Majors, on it. And he said that once things wound down, he said the tech process after the championship race was like a few hours long because they tore the car down at the track. They didn't take anyone back to the R&D center. It was
going to be announced that night. They were leaving there with a champion.
He said a lot of the 78 guys came over and congratulated him and hung out for a little bit. And so that was cool to see. Yeah. But no, we didn't get that on-camera moment between, say, Truex and Logano or really any of the other contenders.
Harvick and Busch. You didn't see one person walk in the victory lane.
I don't think Harvick and Busch are those kind of
No,
guys.
They're not. But
they're all about them.
Yeah, I understand that. But sometimes you can step out of that and be the better guy and go over there and congratulate the guy.
Do you think some of it might have happened behind the scenes and the media didn't show it because they want to?
Well, who knows? I mean, we don't know. Kyle Busch could have texted Joey Logano on the ride home and said, "Hey, bud, congratulations! You're going to be a great champion." We don't know that, but nothing's even been announced about that or nothing.
Well,
it's like
actually something else. I'll just tie into it slightly. Was that when Truex won the championship last year? You heard him ask, "Where's Dale?" because he was looking for Redneck Jesus to come up and hang out with him because I know they're good friends. And it took quite a while before he even got to him. So, I mean, because there is that circus surrounding you once you've won.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, all the other three title contenders were interviewed on TV after the race. They could have said it then. Hey, congratulations, Joey. You're our new champion. Congratulations. But, I won the championship last year at Wall Stadium, and Mikey Montano won it this year. I was one of the first people over there to congratulate him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, Joey Logano won Talladega. That's what got him into the playoffs. Then he won the race at Martinsville where he moved Truex out of the way. And his third and final win of the season came at Homestead when he won the championship. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, 8 wins apiece. Martin Truex Jr., 4 wins. A lot of people are saying, and I don't agree with it, but a lot of people are saying that Joey Logano is not necessarily a deserving champion.
Oh, is this that points thing?
You guys. So,
he's definitely a deserving champion. He won it. He won it, man. He took it at the end of that race. He won that race. He won that championship. He's a champion.
Are they saying it because of like the old points system thing? Yeah. Is that why they're saying it?
That's a factor in it, but also I think it's the fact that there was the big 3 all season long, and he kind of underdogged his way in there with that race at Martinsville, and then
good
he
for
went
him.
out and
I
beat
love
him.
seeing an underdog win, because he even said it's the big 3 in me. I thought that was pretty cool,
I'll steal a line from the late David Poole, who was a writer for the Charlotte Observer. When the chase format was first announced in 2004, the original one where it was a 10-race block, he said the champion's the champion. Everybody races under the same rules, and that's how it is today. Everybody races under the same rules, same circumstances, and he was the best. And don't forget, even though he only had 3 wins compared to the combined 20 of the other 3, Joey still had the 3rd best average finish of the season, and he won when it mattered most. So I don't see how you could argue that.
Eric defend that a little bit. When they switched to the chase format, I've won championships and I'm pretty good at points racing. It bothered me when they switched to the chase system until I heard an interview by Richard Petty. Richard Petty said he had 7 championships under 5 different point systems. So that kind of, this has been going on forever.
If you're good, you're good.
Well, that's what he was saying. Like Josh just said, the old points, people still figure out the traditional old points, and Kyle Busch would have been the championship. But Eric just said it. We weren't playing that game. Who knows? Joey Logano maybe played the game different if it was the old point system and still been the championship. This was the rules we were playing by. This is the game we were playing, and Joey Logano won.
There was a post or a meme I saw. I don't know, an hour or two ago, said, stop complaining about who would have been the champion under the old point system. We've been doing this. What year was it, Eric?
2004 is when the first playoff system.
We've been doing this
14
years. We've been doing the chase / playoff.
I know. To me, it feels
Stop complaining about the old.
Years ago. I didn't realize
this particular format is 4 years old. But when we first went to a playoff or a chase format, it was 2004.
Do you guys remember why we went to a chase playoff form?
Yep.
No, Matt Kenseth, right?
Yep.
Matt Kenseth killed him that year, right? In 2000.
He only had one win at Las Vegas, and he won the title with like a race and a half to go.
Yeah, didn't he win like by 500 points or something crazy like that?
Killed him. Just killed him that year with only one win.
Yeah,
so
they wanted NASCAR wanted to make it more exciting and get more fans in, and that's fine. And honestly, like even Homestead, while the racing itself wasn't the greatest racing I've seen, it was the most stressed or intense it's been in a while, because you had for quite a while you had your 4 championship contenders running 1, 2, 3, 4.
And that's how they finished.
Yeah,
so
I mean that's if you want to make it exciting and make it interesting, they've done it. It doesn't. I mean, because all you need is one guy to blow a tire or run the line wrong or spit or too much pressure. Let it get to him.
I have a point to that. Like everybody's saying, NASCAR needs to get new fans. Like the old fans complain about the old point system. Blah blah blah. Well, the Twins, they don't know the old point system. They know the new point system. And they sat and they watched the race, and every time the ticker would, Bailey would be like, he's a champion. He's going to be the champion now. He's not going to be the champion now. And they would switch, and they were excited to watch the race. They watched the whole race. So it does help the new fanfare, I think. It
does, and it held me more than previous races. Now, fine. I cared a little extra because Truex was, a contender and all that. Fine, but I was still. I mean, you can't make it really much better than that. I mean, I'm sure you can tweak something, but that's definitely a way to do it, and I think that they've succeeded. And it was very similar last year. If Truex did not win the race last year, he wasn't going to be the champion.
And to Tim's point, that was the first championship race that my fiance Haley has watched. In fact, she's kind of latched onto the racing thing more than I ever could have
she's
imagined.
Gonna be let down for a few.
No, she's cool with everything, and I'm very blessed. But it was so easy for her to follow. And I'm not a college football fan, but I will watch the championship game because I could see visually it's a big deal. I don't have to know anything about the sport. I could see it's a big deal.
They've managed baseball. When I start watching the baseball season, like the 9th inning of the 7th game of the World Series, that's when I start watching baseball,
I mean, the grandstands were not packed Friday and Saturday. They were jam-packed on Sunday. Not a sellout at Homestead, but still a really good crowd. The ceremonies, the God Bless America with the national anthem, they don't do that at every race. You could tell that it's a big deal. Not Daytona 500 big, but it's a big deal. And I think that's what NASCAR needed. And as Tim said, if they want to attract more fans, the average consumer could turn this on and say, oh, this must be important. And they have the media tours pre-weekend, post-weekend. I think they hit on something with it.
I think the pre-race show was a bit much. A little bit
3
long.
hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little much. I was like,
It was the pledge, God Bless America, then the anthem.
I'm a balloon lover for the Indy 500.
All the post-race, pre-race stuff, like I think it started at like 12 o'clock in the race, and it come on.
The TV stuff.
Did you know they had it on 2 channels too? They had it on.
Oh, they had like the back over. Yeah, it was more like just in cars and stuff like that.
4 drivers.
Yeah.
That was on the.
I've seen that, and you can do. Something similar. I use the Fire Stick and watch through that or whatever, and it gives me the option to for which feed I want to watch and stuff.
Eric, I thought I did hear that NASCAR was saying it was a sellout, and then when I watched the race, I'm like, that's not a sellout. I mean, there's a lot of empty seats.
Phoenix the week before was the sellout.
Oh, okay.
That one they announced like the Friday of. Homestead, they did a shot from pit road as they watched the cars come down the front stretch for restart, and you could see there was some vacancies, a good bit. So, and also the crowds weren't that good on Friday and Saturday.
It was cold in Florida.
It was cold in Florida. We were down in Florida. Even South Florida, it was cold.
And worse than that, it's Florida.
Now,
I tell you what, I like the race on Homestead. I know it's not a tight track where they're like nose to tail all the time. It does give them room to race, but it's a fast track, and they can run 4 wide and stuff like that. Do you guys like it finishing every year at Homestead, or do you think they should move the location?
It should rotate.
Super Bowl does.
I think it should rotate too. I felt that way with the All-Star race too.
Yeah. Yes.
But I mean, you still have to stay at a warm climate place. I mean, you can't have the championship race at Pocono in November. You know what I'm saying?
Agree to disagree. Yeah. I'm sorry, Scott. What are you doing this weekend?
Yeah, I'm racing. Yeah.
It's almost like the SCCA. It's almost like the SCCA runoffs. They've been rotating from Daytona, Indy, and Mid-Ohio, and I think the championship race should do that as well. You know, pick like 3 or 4 tracks and just bounce it around from there.
Now the thing is, it would be very difficult. You might have to eliminate the plate tracks as being an option,
right? Yeah.
Only because it's fun if you like gambling. Because that's a gamble, but I don't know. I mean, that doesn't show. I mean, yes, you can work better. Some people are better at the whole drafting thing than others. Fine, but if you're going to base a championship on who drafts better or who spots better, no offense, Tim. Spotters are important, but I mean,
well, that's one of the reasons why I do like it at Homestead. I think it's a driver's track, so you know.
Yeah, I would like Richmond or
Richmond be cool. Yeah.
Well, if Homestead could go back to the old layout, that would be cool.
Yeah, right. I like the layout now. I didn't like when it first opened. I didn't think it put on good racing then.
Like right now,
don't forget, this is kind of an end of an era. We're going to have the 550 horsepower motors next year, and
what are they now?
The tighter racing and
like 7 something or
okay.
750.
I think 550. I think it's horrible. You know, my factory stock's got like 330. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
well, yours might.
But I mean, they're only like 200 horsepower more than my factory stock. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, they're gonna be flat footing around these racetracks. I don't know.
But if you take the arrow away, then
they had a 4-car test at Atlanta, and Ross Chastain was in the 42, and he said he was wide open the whole time. So that's what we're gonna see.
Actually, there's something real quick, unrelated, other than it's NASCAR. We talk about, like, you have like the young guns or whatever. Now, some of our youngest drivers, and let's keep it to the top 3 between trucks. How old is Gregson?
He's got to be 18, 19, 20 or something like that.
Okay, fine.
I gave you a 3-year range. So.
That's fine. But we have Justin Haley, I think is another young one. You have a lot of young, all right, fine, maybe legally adults or whatever, but it's otherwise, they're awfully young. And a lot of people are really for them and saying, wow, it's great to see these kids doing well and all that. For me, Jeff Gordon was young and everybody hated him.
Right.
Why?
Well, it's almost like you have to like these young kids now because there's so many of them. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why the career span is so, like, they're retiring at 40 and 45 because they're starting at 18.
But what Josh is asking is, Jeff Gordon got crap for being so young because he was young racing against a lot of 40-year-old guys. Now these kids are 18. They're racing against 10 other 18-year-old kids. So you got to pick one to like.
But doesn't that seem a bit unfair?
Yeah,
well, I think
the way it is now.
I think we're seeing something similar now, more so because of how people got to where they are. Like Austin Cindric and Cole Custer, who have family members who are affiliated with the race teams they drive for. I can imagine it being some animosity for some people. But then you look at a guy like Brett Moffitt, who I think was the story of the weekend. That's a guy who scratched and clawed his way to get his chance, and he is younger, but I think back then it was the young guard versus the old guard, and they tried to pump up the young guns so far in 2018. And Joey Logano was the youngest playoff driver they had make it to the Final Four. He's 28, so he's getting up there.
I remember
when
he's
only 28
for the young guns.
Yeah. Well, going back, I still remember seeing. Like Biffle and, with all the other guys on the side of the souvenir trailers and everything.
Harvick, yep.
Yeah. And like we said, the chase format's been around for 14 years. I mean, the time is just flying right now. So, I don't know. I just think it was an interesting, turn in fanship, we'll call it these days. So, but yeah. So what else? We've talked all about the Cup stuff. Let's do some Xfinity stuff. Let's do some truck stuff. Man, that truck race was pretty cool.
You know what? I was way off on that truck deal. I thought Johnny Sauter was going to kill him down there, and he wasn't even a factor. Did they ever say what happened there? Or did he just miss the setup, or?
He wasn't happy with the handle. I think he was too tight throughout most of the race, especially once the later it got. I think he was just way too tight. But so on the Xfinity side, it just seemed like it came down to Tyler Reddick and Cole Custer pretty much for the whole race. And then I think a miscue on the top of the pit box for Custer, they kept him out way too long, and that gave Reddick the advantage. The new tires mean like 2 seconds at Homestead.
Yeah, I was driving home from Florida, and we were listening to the radio, and we would have it and lose it. We'd have it, lose it. And Cole Custer, when we had the radio reception, he was killing him. He was gone. Yeah. And then when we got the radio reception back, Tyler Reddick was leading. I'm like, wow, I wonder what happened there, because Cole Custer had him covered in the beginning of the race.
Yeah, I think Reddick pitted early, and then Custer was probably doing what Kyle Busch tried to do on Sunday, maybe catch a caution, pin everybody a lap down. That caution never came, and next thing you know, he was about 6 seconds back from Reddick, who hit the wall many, many times, but that composite body car, it never slowed him down. So Reddick got only his second win of the year. He actually bookended the season, won Daytona, won Homestead, and won the championship while leaving Junior Motorsports for Richard Childress in 2019. And then on the Truck Series side, as you said, Scott, Johnny Sauter, never really a factor. Really, Noah Gragson was the only one up towards the front. Justin Haley led a couple of laps, but it came down to Gragson and Moffitt. And Brett Moffitt, who drove for a team that was nearly going to cease operations in midsummer, wasn't even going to make it to Eldora, and then also had to pick up a sponsor to run Chicago. Brett doesn't even know what he's doing next year. As of right now, he doesn't have a job for 2019. So, well... And he got that Toyota team a championship. And I think that's the best story on the weekend.
You know, it's kind of crazy. It's almost like you need that criteria to win a championship, because 2 out of the 3 people that won championships this weekend were leaving the teams or not sure if they're staying with the team. Like you said, Tyler Reddick's moving over to Richard Childress Racing, right? And Brett Moffitt might not even have a ride. I mean, there's rumor that Natalie Decker's taking that ride.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. If it was Haley Deegan, that'd be one thing, but I just don't get that. And I hope Brett lands on his feet. Remember, he filled in for Brian Vickers in a Cup car at Atlanta a few years ago and finished 9th. And Atlanta is one of the toughest tracks for the Cup cars because it's so old. Moffitt's talented. Don't know about the mustache. Don't know if I'm a fan of that thing.
I heard he shaved it off already. It was creepy.
But it was a throwback. It was like we were looking at Mike Skinner and Jack Sprague standing there holding the championship trophy from back in the day.
Was it Blaney that had the other bad haircut?
That was the throwback weekend, though. Brett was riding this thing to the end. It worked. So.
Oh, I let Sam down, but he deserves it because he's not here. He wanted us to tell Greg Biffle that he had the coolest throwback scheme with the Alan Kowicki Hooters thing.
Hooters, that was a cool car.
Hopefully once Greg's got some more time on his hands, we can get him back on.
I'm still a fan of Tilted Kilt, though.
I'm going to recommend we take a short break, and when we come back to the other side, hopefully we can get in touch with one of the drivers who'll be competing, not just Scott and Nancy Riggleman, but also somebody who flew up for Turkey Derby that is coming up this weekend. We'll touch on some more national news, a lot of local stuff to get to, including some big news that broke about Wall Stadium Speedway on the NASCAR side of things, and a whole bunch more. You're listening to the RPM podcast with Tim Riggleman and family, Josh Matthews, and the Edge of Divorce Motorsports duo and Scott and Nancy Riggleman. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, this is Eric Brennan from the RPM Podcast. If you're looking for a dependable full auto repair and preventative maintenance center, then you need to check out O'Shea's Auto Repair in Wall, New Jersey. The family man himself, Tim O'Shea, has been providing the highest quality of automotive repair since 2000 on both domestic and imported cars, trucks, and SUVs. From race cars to street cars, O'Shea's Auto Repair covers it all. For more information, visit their website at o'sheasautorepair.com. O'Shea's Auto Repair, supporter of the RPM Podcast and proud sponsor of the O'Shea Auto Repair Factory stops at Wall Stadium Speedway. Welcome back to the RPM Podcast, and our cast of characters has grown by one. Happy to welcome a guy who spent his 2018
it was just replaced.
Season. Well, that too. Yeah, we kind of subtracted one, added one. This guy, he is a familiar face to all of you up in the New Jersey area. Always makes the trip home for Turkey Derby. Former Indoor Series champion, crew member on the number 12 Penske car on the Cup Series side. And this weekend, he's got a race car to drive. We're talking about, of course, Ryan Flores. Ryan, how's it going, bud?
Good, man. Happy to be here. Happy to be back up in New Jersey for a couple days.
Awesome. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And first off, what do you have planned for Turkey Derby weekend? I know you always make the trip home. We've seen you in a legend car before. We've seen you win in a legend car before at Turkey Derby. What are you going to be doing this weekend?
Yeah, racing one of Richie and Shannon Monjo's factory stocks, which I ran earlier in the year, which is always cool to me because, you know, that's what I grew up with, working on my dad's street stock. And really, you know, my heroes growing up weren't the Eddie Bones and the Gil Hearns. They're more the Russ Cooks and my cousin Keith and Joe and Rich Monjo, you know, and getting to work with Big Ron Riegelman when he owned my dad's car. You know, I think that I think of where I've been able to make it to in racing today, and I know that it's the lessons I learned from Big Ron and Russ Cook and my cousin Keith that really got me here. So I'm excited to get in one of those cars and try to get a wreath like old Chuck Jadacki did back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ryan, obviously racing is in your blood, and you know you live down south. You work on the Cup side of things. You got a whole bunch of things going on here. But this weekend, it's not just about going home for the holidays. It's about being with your racing family, of course. And you mentioned all the people that you look up to. But how about all the people that you get to go see, have a good time with, enjoy your Friday, Saturday evenings with? But then when you strap the helmet on, and this is a good conversation to have since you're going to be racing against one of our RPM podcast members and Scott Riggleman, is it business as usual? Does all that fun and happy energy kind of go out the window for a little while when you strap into that car and the festive nature of the event is gone and you're there to win? Or is the whole thing, even the race itself, just something that you're doing for fun's sake to wrap out your racing season?
I approach every race the same way. You know, obviously the indoor races, you have to be a little bit more intense because there's a little bit more on the line. I own my own equipment, and it's quite frankly just a little bit more dangerous. I feel like you have to be in a little bit different mindset when you strap into one of those things. You're going to do 7-second laps and risk flying into the grandstands every lap. But
sure.
You know, with the factory stock, when it's just like anything else. It's about putting yourself in position, and if it comes down to it and we're in position to win, I'll do what it takes to win. But you know, if we're running around 7th or 8th, I'm not going to hack anybody out of the way. So yeah, I think, you know, I definitely approach it serious, and especially with well, you know, like the talk it's been with Wall Stadium's future after next year being a little bit unclear now. It's big to me to try to get a win in a street stock because that's what I grew up doing. That's what I grew up idolizing. And I want to put my name right there next to, you know, Russ Cook, Richie Monjo, my dad, my cousin Keith, and guys like Pepe Wallace and Scott Riegleman. Those are all guys that I always looked up to. And I want to put my name on that win list too in those cars.
Now, Scott, I know that obviously that this season didn't pan out the way that you wanted to. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we can attest to about the factory stocks, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, is that the level of competition has gotten so strong. And I know, Ryan, when you came and raced in that car, you got a 3rd place finish out of it. Are you surprised with how competitive the factory stocks have become and just how deep that competitive field is? And Scott, if you can as well, you know, after Ryan chimes in, you know, maybe elaborate a little bit further on just how tough that division is, maybe the toughest that they have at Wall Stadium Speedway.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's super hard, especially anytime you get 30 cars. It's challenging. And then I think the biggest thing is maybe the difference between the fast cars and the slow cars might be 2 to 3 tenths, where other divisions, it might be, you know, 3/4 of a second. And if you're trying to pass a car that you're 3/4 of a second faster than, it's quite a bit easier than trying to work on a car that you might only be 1/10 of a second faster than. So if you start, you know, any deeper than 10th, and it's a 40-lap race, and the race that I ran in the summer, it had one caution right at the beginning, and then it ran 25 green flag laps straight. So by the time you pick your way to the front, the laps are already gone. So I think that's one of the really hard parts. But I'll tell you what, like I was talking to Lou Ciccone yesterday because I'm going to drive for him in the dirt race, and he was kind of joking on me because I was racing a street stock because he kind of races, super modifieds and all sorts of different things. And I said, man, there's nothing. I find that factory stocks are super challenging because there's a fine line. If you don't drive it hard enough, obviously you're not going fast enough. But if you drive it too hard, it's way worse. And it's not easy to do. The way you float them in the corner, the way that you time your gas, you got to time the gas to not push like a dump truck, and the way you set each other up with a car that big on a track as narrow as Wall Stadium. It's pretty technical.
Yeah,
So
Ryan,
Ryan,
I would explain to the modified guys that, because modified guys say to me, oh, it's just a factory stock, it's just a street stock, what's the big deal? And I explained to the modified guys, I said, listen, you're driving a modified that was built to go oval track racing. We're driving a car that was designed to go down the parkway, and we're trying to make it turn through the turns. It's a challenge, and I love that challenge.
Yeah, I said to him, I said that we were talking about the comparison between the midget and that, and I said, well, the midget, it's got good brakes. Oh, it's got good motor, so it goes. It's got good brakes, so it stops, and it's got crazy suspension, so it turns. I said the factory stock doesn't do any. It doesn't go stop
right.
or turn. You have to do all of that for it.
You're doing it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not easy, and I challenge anybody to jump in and try to go fast. I learned how to do it in Glennie Osborne's Impala that he ran at Flemington. I learned how to do it a couple of years back, and it's just totally different than anything else you'd ever do.
It's a big
but on the other hand, too, is when a modified guy does get a chance to take out a factory and street stock, they come in with the biggest smile on their face. I let Eric Goodale take my car out when we were down in Florida. I let Eric Goodale take my car out at Bronson Speedway. He did about 20 laps out there, and he came in and he had the biggest smile on his face. And I just looked right at him and I said, see, Eric, you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a modified to have fun in a race car. You can buy this thing for about $5,000 or $6,000 and have the best time of your life. And he's like, yeah, you know what? You're right.
I thought he was going to kick me out of my car.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best division at Wall Stadium. I say that weekend, and we got, especially after they put the bigger tires on the wall cars. I feel like there's just too much tire to. The wall modifieds are going so fast now that they're hard to race. I mean, that's what I ran into last year when I ran Jimmie's cars. Everybody's going so fast, it's hard to even race each other.
Right.
Now, Ryan, you mentioned there being a bit of a question mark about Wall Stadium beyond 2019. Today, we got some news that kind of affirms that 2019 is in good hands. It was announced today that the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will be returning to Wall Stadium Speedway along with South Boston Speedway as additions to their 2019 calendar. Race is slated for May 18, 2019, and this will be the fourth, and not counting the flash races as two, this will be the fourth stop for the Whelen Modified Tour at Wall Stadium Speedway in history. How big of a deal do you think that is, considering your broad scope of the layout, not only with Wall Stadium Speedway, but local racing in general, a return to the roots for the modifieds, if you will? And do you think that will help boost a little bit more interest in a racetrack that really kind of may need it right now?
I think that it's awesome. I mean, I don't know why the modified tour, if you look at where the modified tour was when it was the tour, when it was Richie Evans and those guys, and then, look a little bit further that to the 90s and where they were racing. And I remember, and I know Timmy remembers going with John to some little hole in the wall, to really shithole tracks. And where was the one we used to go where John would always get booed up there in New York? Oh man, right there by Watkins Glen. I still go there for the R2 races. Chemung, yeah. John would always ask his dad. He'd be like, ask John Jr., what the hell did you do up here? Because it's the only place I ever get booed in my life. But yeah, I think they need to get away. I mean, if you look at New York State, there's really cool racetracks there that they need to be racing at. Holland. I mean, I remember the tour used to race Holland, and I would like to see the tour at somewhere like Mahoning Valley that races tour cars full time. But looking at Wall Stadium, there's a ton of local talent at Wall Stadium that does not have the funds to go race a Thompson or a Stafford. but can make noise there. And I look beyond Jimmie Blewett. Obviously, Jimmie is, Jimmie's going to be the heavy favorite to win that race. He should be. He's the best at Wall Stadium that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and probably will ever see there. But you look past that. I look at a guy like Ron Freese, who, I grew up watching race against my dad and in the street stocks, and that can go, and he just always finds a way to run top 3 at Turkey Derby. He's always in the hunt there, and that's a guy that could hold the biggest upset of the year on the modified tour. And you look at kids like Blake Barney, and there's a ton of talent right here that have tour modifieds that don't have the money to go make noise on a touring schedule.
Now, one thing I want to ask, you're obviously very much for them coming back to Wall, but you mentioned with the Wall mods and their tires going too fast. Do you see any potential issues with the racing product being good or bad with these tour mods, being that they're inherently faster?
So one thing you look at with the tour mods compared to the Wall mods is speed variation. And I actually had a conversation with Jimmie about this on Sunday morning before the race in Homestead, because his Wall modified was actually faster than his tour mod this week.
Yeah, by like a 10th or 2.
Yeah, and I said, man, what does it? He said, well, you got it. He was telling me what he does with the setup and how much different he's got to run the tour car, because you stop and go and stop and go. And at the end of the straightaway, you're going faster, but the middle of the corner, you're going slower. And I feel like speed variation makes for better racing because you have to work the car more. When you're running a faster lap time with a car that's not going as fast, it means your mid-corner speed's faster, which means it's probably a little bit easier to drive if you're able to carry that more speed. So you look at Martinsville, look at the product of racing at a Martinsville or a road course where there's always speed variation, and look at a product of racing at a Kansas or a mile and a half where they're running the same speed all the way around the track.
Okay. That's a very good explanation. Now, would that...
But they're going to wreck their brains out. They're going to wreck so many cars. It's going to be great, and that's just how it's always been there.
But
Jimmie can tell you as a spotter.
No, I was going to say, additionally, with going slower mid-corner, would that cause more of that, you see them hit the bumpers in any division, but is that going to be harder, and you're going to see them wreck more because of that lower mid-speed corner where people get into the back of each other?
I think you just see everybody wreck more there because you're going so fast and you're driving the absolute snot out of your car because the banking is, the banking's catching you. You have to drive your car hard there, and it's narrow. I mean, Timmy can attest to this. When the tour mods first came back, the only car that didn't wreck all day was Reggie Ruggiero in the 41. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
And then I think Jimmie spun him out coming to the checker and won the race. I think that's what somebody spun him out because he was the only car all day that didn't wreck, cycled to the lead, was going to win the race, and got wrecked on the last lap.
Was that one with the 50-50?
It was a little bit of a shit show, but I think it's going to be great, man. I wish I could be there.
I think it's going to be a great event. Necessarily, is it going to be a great race? Maybe not, but it's going to be a great event overall. You know what I'm saying? I talk about it all the time. Wall Stadium is a perfect track for the street stocks and maybe even the late models. But when you start getting the speeds of the modified, it's tough to race on that racetrack when you're doing 12-second laps.
Oh yeah, and I feel like if you went to that track and fixed the fence a little bit where you could bounce off of it with an open wheel car instead of getting sucked in, it would be better. It's been an issue there forever. As long as it's been there, the fence has always been challenging. If it was more of a fence that was, I would say, a little bit more forgiving that you could bounce off of instead of hitting one of them posts and getting spun around and spit back out into traffic, maybe it would be better, but that's not what it is. Don't hit the fence, right?
Right.
Yeah, now, Ryan, your racing slate doesn't end at Turkey Derby, though. You mentioned the ride with Lou Ciccone for Trenton, for the dirt race that they have coming up, which ended up being a pretty large success in its first running last season. A lot more interest, it seems, in the second annual running of that indoor dirt show. How did that deal come together, and what does the rest of your indoor slate look like?
With Lou, so met Lou. I mean, I don't know if you guys went to the indoor races when Louis was the man, when it first started back up, and he had that yellow and orange car, and he would just drive by everybody on the outside when the guardrail was on the inside of the track. I really looked up to him there. And then when we started racing with our own car, he was buddies with Jimmie, and we became friends. And last year at Allentown, after we blew up, we got to talking, and he said, "Hey, man, I was impressed with what you did. If you ever need anything, let me know." And I said, "I need a dirt ride, Lou." And he said, "I got 4 cars. Let's go racing." So he was a man of his word. And seeing what Lenny and Davey and Danny did there in Trenton at whatever that place is called now, and the name changes every year we go, Sun National Bank Center or whatever it is, what they did bringing in that dirt and really having a great show was super impressive. And that's why the car counts are maxed out at 120 this year.
Ryan, do you have much dirt experience? I don't recall you racing dirt much.
So me and my dad used to go to Phoenixville like on Wednesday nights. We would just load the van up. I think we probably blew the motor in the van 3 or 4 times coming home from there. I got stuck on the side of the road.
That's because it had race car stuff and plumbing supplies. So you're
yeah. Every copper fitting you could need. But yeah, we did a lot of that growing up, and I was lucky with my dad because he likes every form of motorsports from BMX or any form of racing, from BMX to motocross, dirt racing and asphalt racing. So he really brought me we were racing when I was a kid. If we were sitting in the grandstands racing the quarter midgets 5 nights a week sometimes, so we did a lot of dirt racing, and then did a lot of sitting in the grandstands when my cousin Keith went street stock racing at East Windsor and New Egypt, and really watching that. My dad is really good at explaining to me what I watched and how to do that stuff. So we ran a dirt race a couple of years ago, and I was struggling, and he said, "Hey, you remember when you'd sit in the corner and listen to like Billy Pouch and Doug Hoffman, and they just never get off the gas, they just work the throttle?" And he was like, "You can never lift all the way out, remember?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do that." And I did that, and I won the race. I never ran it.
Where was that at?
It was at a track in Delaware called Delmarva. We went there as a NASCAR pit crew thing.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember.
And I ended up racing the normal feature. There was only like 6 cars or something, but I started last, and I won the thing. I drove by everybody, and I was like, "Oh boy!" And I made like $500 because there was a bounty on the kid's head because he hadn't lost all year. But I told Lou, I made a plan with Lou, and I told Lou, I said, "Man, I'm not the guy that's going to go up there and put the right rear on the fence and hammer down." I said, "But I can hook the bottom with the best of them. So let's make a plan to do that. And if it works out, it works out. If not, we'll do it on Thursday." I watched a lot of videos and a lot of stuff like that. But we'll see. I don't know. I could flip and end up in the 5th row of the grandstands too. Who knows?
With the TQs racing on the infield at Wall Stadium, I always thought you would take your indoor car and race it there during Turkey Derby. Is there a reason why you don't do that?
My dad fought me tooth and nail on it. I had a wing bought for it this year. I had the wing. So there's a couple things with my indoor car. It's kind of, call it what it is. It's a $30,000 race car that sits under a cover 10 months out of the year,
right.
So I want to race it, and we brought it to Wall and raced it one time. But I approached that as a business. I approached the indoor racing as a business, and if you do it right, you don't go broke, right? So we've been fortunate to be able to run well and get great partners and sponsors where I wouldn't say make money on it, but we come out even at the end of the day. And with the track on the infield, it just doesn't quite pay enough. The risk versus reward isn't there, because if you wreck down there, it's usually not cheap when you fix it, especially down there. Like you end up like Ronnie Mullen, where you hop a wheel and flip.
And watch up the big track.
Yeah, but I had a wing bought for it this year because they're going to run wings, and they came out with the rules just a little bit late for me being in North Carolina and the car being up here to really make something happen. But next year, I plan on running that race. I know my dad's going to fight me on it, but I'm going to do it because I've always wanted to try to win an ATQMRA race because, he grew up watching them, right? And now we're in position where I can be competitive enough to win some of these races, and I'd like to do it because you only get one shot at it, right? And and I know you and Timmy, you guys all grew up like I did watching those guys race on the big track, and I'd love to win one of those races.
Now, Ryan, being a big fan, since we are on the topic of the ATQMRA and then running on the big track, outside of perspective, as somebody who's driven those cars, however, not on that big track at Wall, do you believe that the infield is where they in fact belong? And with the wings, is that the proper formula that kind of enticed you to want to go buy that wing and get out there for this race? If not this year, then as you mentioned, next year?
Yeah, I think the traditionalists would say that the traditionalists, ATQMRA guys would say that they need to be on the big track. But I think if you look at motorsports and where we've come safety-wise, it just does not make sense to kill somebody for a TQ midget race. And if you look at the injury like Mike Titebeck got or Timex Morgan, like Ronnie Mullen got, these cars are going very fast now. They are not two-cycle cars with what they call them bagpipe exhaust on the left side of them, like we used to watch.
Right.
They're not that. I mean, these cars go faster than the tour cars do around there. They're the fastest division race at Wall Stadium, and they got 1.25 inch tubing. And, my seat in my car weighs 11 pounds. There's no chance that car I'm ever taking. I didn't even like racing a legend car around there. And a legend car weighs twice as much as a TQ. So I don't think, look at a couple things. The wall there, when I saw the wall go through Kenny Matlack's car, with the way that is now, that those cars don't need to be up there going that fast next to that wall. And two, it's the risk versus reward isn't there. The infield track is very nice. It's very challenging to drive. It gets a little dusty, but really it's a challenge when it gets dusty like that because those cars eat so hard off of the left rear that you'll be going down the straightaway. And it happened to me the first time I was out there. I was going down the straightaway and then it just was sideways all of a sudden. Like, whoa. So I think that's where they need to be racing. And I think if someone says different, maybe they're not looking at the full picture because all it would take I think if you need to know why we need to be looking at safety, I think a guy like Mike Titebeck is the perfect reason. He ran forever and just one freak accident, he really got hurt from it. And it's not worth hurting somebody, especially someone with a family, anybody, to have fun on a Saturday night. Because at the end of the day, it's a hobby, right?
Right.
Nobody's getting rich off of this.
Ryan, during this interview, I have heard you mention a few times about the guardrail at Wall Stadium. I just want to let you know that it has been repaired very well over the winter. It's a lot better than it was last year. Is it still the greatest guardrail in sports? No, it's not, but it is better. We've had a lot of hard wrecks there this year, and the fence held up a lot better than it did in the years past. They did put a lot of work into repairing that and making it better.
Yeah, I knew that some of the posts were rotted, right? And I think they fixed all those too, right?
Yeah, they put a lot of new steel posts in and everything. Al Voorhees was part of the team putting that together. It was Mike Brennan and Al Voorhees over the winter. They did a real nice job fixing that guardrail. I mean, would a concrete wall be better? Of course it would. Safer barrier would be even better yet? Of course it would. But it's a lot better than it has been in the past. I mean, last year every time a sportsman hit it, they were ripping the fence out of the ground, and we were 45 minutes waiting for them to fix it. This year, we didn't have that problem at all. So it is a lot better than it has been, and I think that's another reason why they got the NASCAR modified tour race there.
That's awesome. I didn't know that they put that much in there. So I feel more comfortable bouncing off the fence this week.
It's better than tires.
Yeah,
Oh God,
I'm still not recommending you bouncing off the fence. It might not be that great, but it is a lot better than it has been in the past. Just to let you know that it has been.
Honestly, even just from the from the grandstands, just watching, it looks tremendously better than it used to.
Yeah, they did a great job, really, over the winter, repairing that and reinstalling a lot of it. They did a great job.
But Russ Cook said the wall is my friend.
Oh yeah, I learned, dude. Russ Cook. The best story about Russ Cook is when he did it to my dad a couple times, and I saw him do it to a couple people when they'd bring a brand new race car there, like all lettered up, all painted up, all nice, and he'd just drive right down the side of it for his practice. But
another great Russ Cook story. He always noticed people's paint jobs. He really did. And every time I would show up at the beginning of the year with my car brand new, looking sparkly clean, he'd walk over to me and he'd be like, "Scott, do you know there's so many more better colors in this world than black? Why is your race car always black? Like Russ always liked the bright white and orange or yellow and orange, and he liked bright colors. He's like, why do you paint your car black every year? He gets so mad that I painted my car black." Another quick Russ story saying that I still use today. A lot of people, when they come in the race, and they'll come over to me and be like, "Man, I'm really nervous about going out on that racetrack." And they're looking at me. I've been racing 30 years, and they're like, "You still get nervous?" I'm like, "Yeah, I still get nervous." And I said, "You know what? My friend Russ Cook used to tell me, because I used to get real nervous, and he'd walk over to me. He's like, 'Scott, if you ain't nervous, you ain't ready.'" And that always stuck with me. That's something Russ always used to tell me, and it's true. I mean, I've been racing 30 years, and I still get a little nervous when I roll down on that track.
He has a nervous cough.
you know what I think of every time I go out on the racetrack, no matter what I'm driving? I think of Big Ron Riegelman. This is no shit. And even sometimes when I'm changing tires, and he always reach in and go, "Smooth, smooth, 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 smooth." I probably spent more time around him growing up than I did around, you guys. But Big Ron was a big impact in my life, and there's still a picture of him on my toolbox today. And I know that I'm very, very grateful for my time with him, and then working in the hut with Sammy the Head, and all those guys. I'll tell you what, those guys and Johnny Lors. I know there was a point in time where my dad went through a little rough patch, and Johnny Lors brought me racing for 2 years of my life. And if it wasn't for your Uncle Sam and Johnny Lors pulling me there on a wooden trailer behind the ramp truck, I wouldn't have been racing I might not be racing today. So just happy to be back at Wall Stadium with all those guys that really keep you going, and there's just so many good racers around here, and I would hate to see anything ever happen to this racetrack. And it's just, I don't think there's many better short tracks in the country than this, but I'm probably biased.
Hey, Ryan, I always look at you as, I've known you since you were a little kid, and you always look like a young guy to me, but you're starting to get a little bit older too now. How much longer are you going to do the over the wall thing for a NASCAR team?
So I'm 31 now, and I'm signed with Penske I signed a 4-year, 3+1. So it's 3 years plus their option. So it's a 4-year contract. So I got three more past this. And I actually we're working on the building now, but I'm starting a powder coating business. So for the last 12, 13 years of my life, I've worked in the shop, and then recently started pitting. I actually quit my shop job where I don't work on the cars at all. I just go in 3 hours on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and train, and then just fly out Sunday. So looking at that, I started a powder coating business, which we are getting up and running, should be up and running by January. I'm going to work on that. And while I'm changing tires, hopefully in 3 years, I'll have a debt-free powder coating business up and running, and I can make the decision to either keep going over the wall or do something else. I like my job. It's really afforded me and my wife and my family an opportunity that a kid from Manasquan High School with no education can make a good living doing. But it's also limited, and if you chase it too long, it bites you. So my dream would be at the end of this contract to be able to walk away from it, and I'd love to get a tour mod and go racing, or just go racing myself, because that's something that I'm not able to do, is race much with this career. And that's what I want to be doing more often, driving myself.
Do you have a name for the powder coating business you started? And
Yeah, it's called Flow Coating.
Okay.
Is it just like FLO, like like the waitress Flow? Okay.
Yeah, Flow Coating. It's in Huntersville. Actually, I actually told Logano about it, and he's like, "How? What the frick are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was working on starting fire." He's like, "Well, I got a freaking building. We'll just put it in there." So I wake up this morning I got the baby up, and I was kind of laying here with her, and 8:00 in the morning, my phone's ringing, and it's Logano, and he's like, "Hey, we got to work on this building," and I'm like, You just won the Cup championship, and you're calling me about this freaking building right now? He's like, it's just on my list. I'm going through stuff. That was crazy, right? But so he's helping me out. So got good people on my side down there, and
you're tight with the off-access people too, right? Is that?
Yeah, Greg, off-access Greg.
I thought you were in the building with him. Isn't that where your shop was?
So I had a small oven in there that was more or less just above a hobby. It's a small, kind of like the same size of a refrigerator. And I do a lot of stuff in there. I did a lot of like LaJoy seats and some stuff for Penske, but I bought a 10 foot wide, 15 foot long, 8 foot tall oven and booth. So I needed an actual building for it, like a big building. His building wasn't big enough for me to put a 400 degree, 15 foot oven in. So yeah, we got a separate 2,500 square foot building that I'm just gonna try to live the American dream and build something for myself. And when Eric Brennan's down there in Charlotte and he's got free time, I'm gonna come over there and make him clean some parts.
All I have is time, Ryan. That's all I got.
Hey, Ryan, your wife used to work in racing also. Does she still work in racing, or is she done traveling because of the baby?
Yeah, so Carissa's got more Cup championships than I do, so that's kind of bullshit. But she is 100% a domesticated housewife now. With what she was in marketing, she worked first straight out of college with the Miss Sprint Cup account. She was like their kind of PR rep for the Miss Sprint Cup girls, and then she moved. That was an internship, and she moved over and got a position with a marketing agency in Charlotte called GMR. And what she did was she was on the Lowe's account. So she did social media at the racetrack for the Team Lowe's racing account, all their accounts. And then she moved up and into a position where she pretty much just took care of all of Jimmie's appearances at all the Lowe's stores. When he would travel around, she would have to go to all the different stores that he would go to. It was cool, and to be able to work with a guy of that caliber was definitely was cool for her. But she didn't grow up in the sport like we did. She just grew up in North Carolina and out of college got a job doing that, so we were lucky to meet each other and get to travel the circuit together. But now having a baby and trying to raise a family, she stays home and does a great job raising.
And obviously that job would have dissolved after this year anyway. So
yeah, we kind of saw the writing on the wall last year when she got pregnant that was going to go away, and it just with driving to Charlotte every day with as bad as 77 is, and having to travel, both of us, this year I probably traveled more this year than I have any other year, and I didn't work in the shop anymore. I ended up being the tire specialist for the 12 Xfinity car every time it ran. I had to go fill in this past week because there was a death in the family of of Brad Keselowski's tire guy. I had to go fill in and do tires, be the tire specialist on the 2 car, and then change tires on the Xfinity car on Saturday and change Cup tires for the 12. So it was a full weekend. But if we're able to, it's a little bit of a sacrifice to get her to stay at home. Not everybody can be a stay-at-home dad like Tina Riedelman.
Tim's got that job locked down. Hey, Ryan, you brought up Jimmie Johnson, our co-host Sam Ballard, who's not with us tonight because he's flying home from Charlotte too.
He's not with us anymore.
Yeah,
arrangements are. Oh,
but Sam's a huge Jimmie Johnson fan. Do you think Jimmie Johnson's going to get it turned around next year and find his way back to victory lane, or do you think he's on his way out?
Yeah, I don't think he's on his way out. I think the Chevys in general struggle.
Right.
I think that looking at it from the inside, not just seeing what's on TV. The 9 car gets away with a little bit more through tech than most cars do. I'll just call it what it is. They're more aggressive on body stuff. They seem to be able to slip through the cracks a little bit more than what the 48 is. They just couldn't find a balance all year. And you know as well as I do, Scott, no, it doesn't matter how good of a race car driver you are. If you don't have the car underneath you or the balance underneath you, you can't do much, and especially at that level. That's what you look at. I think people look at Jimmie and they get a false sense of what someone's supposed to be because of what he did in the mid-2000s. With winning 5 straight, 7-time champ, 84 wins. You don't realize how special that was, what he was doing. But you look at all the Chevys, there was pretty much the 42 had speed at the beginning of the year, and nobody else did. That kid's just a freak in the 42 car. He does stuff with those cars that nobody else can. But if you get this package next year is going to be very interesting. I think you're going to see people running up front that you're not used to seeing run up front. But a guy the caliber of Jimmie Johnson with a team the caliber of Hendrick Motorsports is not going to be down for long. So I look for them to rebound in 2019 for sure.
Another question like that, whenever we get someone calling in from North Carolina that, you guys hear a lot more than we do, just being in a local cafe or something. We like to talk a little bit about silly season because we always like to guess who's going where. What do you think is going to happen with that 41 car? Who do you think is going to end up in that?
If I was a betting man, I would just say Daniel Suarez. It's not something that you're going to go to without a couple $1 million. And, I don't know that Cole is quite groomed enough for that car yet. So I would guess that Daniel Suarez would end up in that, but I'm not positive yet.
I know that Monster Energy's already announced on the Ganassi car, so you think it's pretty locked that Kurt Busch is going over there and he's not going to be in the 41 car?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Kurt will be in there, but Kurt's like a weird situation because when you have a $5 million sponsor like Monster Energy, and you ask for $8 million salary. I mean, what? The end of the days of guys making, 10, 15, even $5 million a year are coming to an end because you got guys like Alex Bowman out there that do just as well, that make maybe $750,000. So you hear all this cost cutting measures they're making, and think about how much stuff you have to cut to save $7 million.
Do you think that that's another reason why we didn't see Matt Kenseth sign with the 6 car for next year? It just wasn't paying enough, where he's used to making the big money?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. He's got 4 girls at home.
Right.
He's got, not including his wife. He's got 4 daughters. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of weddings to pay for, too. So he's probably trying to.
It was just a little crazy that Matt made that announcement that he wasn't coming back to the 6 and that Ryan Newman was taking it over. Then he goes out and knocks off 2 top 10s. I'm like, maybe he made that announcement a little too soon. Maybe he should have came back next year and had 6 cars because he seemed like he got it turned around the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're super fast. They weren't super fast, but they were super impressive at Homestead. My buddy Travis Peterson actually crew chief that thing, his first crew chiefing gig, so I was happy to see that. But yeah, I don't know. I think Matt's over it. He's done it for a long time. He's made a ton of money, and his girls are getting old enough now where he needs to be in their life, and it's very, very grueling to do this schedule. It's not even. Timmy knows how hard it is just to travel the modified stuff and be gone a couple of days a week from your girls. Being gone 38 weeks straight and leaving on Thursday and not getting home till Sunday night is absolutely brutal.
Now, I know for a while you worked with Jamie McMurray. He's another one that we're not sure what he's doing next year. Do you think he's going to be racing in NASCAR next year, or do you think he's going to bow out also?
I think he's done. I had a conversation with him in Oklahoma when we were flying to Vegas, and he was kind of talking about the money, like we just talked about the money people are making, and he's made enough money where he's not going to drive for anything less than a couple million, and I don't think that anybody's going to pay him a couple million, so I think he'll just be done. I think he's made good investments, and he'll be just fine. He'll go hang out with. He's got 2 kids and wife.
we talked about this before about drivers starting so young and making all their money. That's why guys like Dale Jr., Jamie McMurray, they're leaving now because now they have kids and they have money. They don't need to work.
Yeah, and they've had long careers.
Yep.
And like Jamie's been around a long time. And hell, he was 6-7 years in his career, 13 years ago when I started for him. So he's had almost a 20-year career. And guys aren't going to stick around forever. So yeah, I think a guy like, you look at a guy like Greg Biffle too. He just got moved out. And are they capable to still win in the right situation? I'm sure they are. But it's just professional sports. Sometimes there's just not a spot for you.
No, he's junk car racing with Scott now.
Yeah.
He upgraded.
Yeah, he upgraded the junk car racing with Scott Riggleman. But
I'll tell you what, that guy is succeeding in the fun department for sure.
That's right.
He's going real racing now.
One more guy, AJ Allmendinger. Ryan Preece is taking his ride over. Do you think we've seen the last of AJ in NASCAR racing too, or do you think he'll end up
Not the
somewhere?
Dinger.
I don't know. He's got a fun name. I'll tell you that. Before he even started racing, Timmy Airy used to always say, AJ Allmendinger, because his name was so funny. Back when he was racing Indy Lights. That's back when Timmy Riggleman was driving that Earl paving car. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
Yellow car. But yeah, I think that he'll be done. I think he'll go to from what I hear, he'll go to like a sports car team like Juan Pablo does.
Right.
He'll be better suited at that, and it's just like I said, he's probably capable of winning races here in the right situation, but his time has just come where he's done, and Ryan Preece has proven himself, and he's a little bit fresher name, and he's earned a spot, so hopefully Ryan can do well.
I think that noise was Nancy's hair hitting her microphone. I think that's what it was. It might have been.
Could have been the wine glass bouncing off.
Yeah.
Or the bottle that's by my feet. I don't know.
Oh, and little known fact, Scott painting his cars black was actually just to get past that eagle eye system.
The real reason whenever I raced other than Wall Stadium, I would paint my cars white and blue and stuff like that. The real reason I painted my cars black when we raced Wall Stadium, because like Ryan was saying, it's such a contact sport over there. It was just easy to touch up. You can take
it doesn't show dirt.
Back. Yeah, you can weld a torch on it and then hit it with some black spray paint and it looked perfect. That's the real reason I painted the cars black at Wall Stadium. But when I had the arch truck and when I raced Flemington, my cars were white and blue.
Yeah, your truck
was
wasn't
doing
your
our
arch.
cars, and he told me if I can't get it in spray paint, I can't have that color on my car.
That's why the midget's white and black. That's 1,000% why the midget's white and black, because everything can be touched up with spray paint.
Right.
But
Even though you own a powder coating business, you're going to spray paint it. But that's
I bought that car before.
Match any paint into spray paint for me, so I'm good.
Hey Timmy, who you spotting for this weekend?
Timmy saw me too.
Oh boy, you're gonna be down there fighting Jimmie by the end of this deal.
Why would I fight Jimmie for?
You were there last year, or was that? No, that was the year before that. Oh gosh.
Timmy isn't getting up to fight anybody.
I'll tell you what, man. There's no. I don't think there was any better era of Wall Stadium than when we were going racing every week with those guys, and you were working the small scales there, and just the crowd, the cast of characters that worked in the junkyard, and I was, you know what? I needed to tell you this. I forgot about this. After Joey moved Martin at Martinsville, I got like a paragraph message about how much of an asshole Joey was from Dave Michaels. And I was just laughing because of, the stuff that Jimmie and John used to do to Dave Michael. Remember with the Napa cardboard cutout where they put a mullet on it?
Right.
And all that stuff. And the guys we raced against back then, we went there with Jimmie and Fred Archer with a $40,000 budget to go race Wall Modifieds, and we won one race all year. Because there was guys like Timmy Airy and John and Kevin Flockhart, guys like that were really just kicking our ass. Curtis Truex, Dave Michaels was fast, and it was probably 10 or 12 cars that could win.
And that's what the factory stock division's turning into. Me and Elliot Wall were talking about it too. Like, just last year, there was 4 or 5 guys that could win. Now we're up to like 10 or 11, 12 cars that can win any night,
Big
and then,
L looking to stick it in there on the inside of Riggleman.
But the other problem with the Wall Stadium factory stocks, that we talked about this too, Ryan, we're getting so many cars now. I think there should be a rule in our factory stock division. If we have 20 or more cars, they should give us 10 more laps. They should make it a 35-lap feature instead of 25 laps. Because the problem is, a guy like me or Elliot or Shannon Maggio, we finish good every week, so we got the handicap system killing us. We're starting 16th and 18th, and we got 25 laps to make it to the front.
Scott, let me propose this. What do you think about A mains and B mains?
No. Running. I like the idea of running everybody. Just if there's more than 20 cars, make it a 35 lapper. And I like the idea of starting them off. 30 cars show up, start them all.
We had 28, no problem.
Yeah, we raced with 28.
I raced with 36.
I heard that 36 car count was a little bit of a shit show.
It was a little hectic, but I had fun.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think some of the competition is pretty tough. Is because I was over there finishing up that 14 car today, and I think half the factory stock field is in Richie Manjo's garage over there. So they all got about the same setup. So I think that makes it definitely more challenging.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people don't work on their own race cars anymore.
It's kind of disappointing, to tell you the truth. I grew up where you built your own race car and went to the racetrack. And now everybody's just dropping their cars off at other people's shops.
I just show up with my bag. I can't say anything.
Between Jimmie's working on everybody's car, Billy Cole working on everybody's car, and the Manjo's working on everybody's car.
Yeah. And you got Al Voorhees, too. He's got a shop full of cars over there, too. I swear to God, there's sometimes I'm out in my shop working on my race cars. I feel like I'm the only one left that works on my own race cars. You know what I'm saying? But then again, that's another part of racing I enjoy. I enjoy building my race car and going to the racetrack with it.
Yeah, and that's where the guys that don't have store-bought race team, the guys that build their own stuff, always seem to run up front more because you're more in tune. I know that that one reason we run well with the midget is because I'm in there with Jimmie and we're working on that thing, and I know every nut and bolt on that car. So
and you know how far that nut and bolt will take abuse to. Like I know my car. There's a couple times I got to take it easy. My brakes are getting hot. I feel the pedal getting spongy. Like stuff like that. You hear certain rattles, and when you come back in, well, I better tighten the exhaust up. I hear a rattle, and I just think I'm a better driver because I know the mechanics of the car.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt in my mind, and I'll never understand that. I didn't have the luxury of paying anybody to work on my stuff, but I wouldn't want any other way. My old man would beat my ass if I had somebody work on my car, I think, too.
I mean, other tracks are even going farther than this. I mean, there's so many rent-a-ride deals now. People are just showing up and renting cars and racing and going home. Racing's getting crazy that way. Nobody wants to. I mean, it's getting to the point some people don't even want to tow their own car to the racetracks anymore. Ryan, you'd be amazed how many people call me and ask me if I can tow their race car to the track on my flatbed.
Like Jimmie's calling you tows sportsmen to the track. I know that, right?
Yeah, it's just
no, but yeah, that's always been the way I grew up at Wall. That's always been the most fun part to me, really. At the end of the night, when they'd open the pit gate over there at the you guys remember where they used to be? They used to be at the bottom of the grandstands in turn 4, but back up. But like by the bathrooms, and they'd open the gate, and I'd run in there to my dad's trailer, and we'd hang out, all hang out on the trailer, and we'd get in the cars and we loaded them up and strap them down. That was the fun part to me. I think I still have scars on my knees and my legs from falling off, in between the open trailers. we had some rough open trailers that we drug out of Osborne's, I think. But yeah, that was the most fun part to me. And then, my dad, whenever he'd wreck, which he was pretty good at hitting stuff, going to Osborne's on a Sunday and finding, going out there with him and finding lower control arms and upper control arms and bumpers and stuff. And that's the part of racing that I enjoy. And I think that people are skipping a little bit of the struggle and most of the fun when they just show up with their bag and strap in.
So, Ryan, we're coming to the end of the factory stock race on Friday or Sunday. Scott's in front of you on the last lap. You're heading to turn number 3. He's within striking distance. Who wins?
I drove working for Jimmie Blewett, man.
Hey, I got a big mirror in that car. I'll be just fine.
It might be behind us, so we better watch out.
You can't punt somebody in the factory stocks like you can in a modified or anything. You got to more work on somebody in them. But yeah, the one that I watch and that I'm gonna stick 3 wide is Elliott Wall, because he sticks everybody 3 wide. So when I get the chance, he's getting stuck 3 wide.
I've seen Riggleman do it before too. So.
I'll tell you
Elliott Wall able to fill the hole.
Alexis.
Elliott he stuck me 3 wide in the heat race when I was there. And I'm like, dude, what? He's like, why did you lift? I'm like, it's not even my car, and it doesn't matter where you finish. If I finish 5th or if I finish 1st, I'm in the handicap, so it's like I'm over it.
Yeah.
Alexis, who's your pick for the factory stock feature? You put it on Facebook the other day.
Who's that, Alexis?
Yeah.
Well, now she's not going to say it because Uncle Scott's here now.
I read it. It's Mikey Montano. I read it.
Remember? Hey, didn't I get her helmet painted?
That's Bailey.
That's Bailey. All right.
I was going to get to that.
Number 2 drive.
Hey, Ryan, one last question before we get off the air here. You did bring up the pass with Joey Logano and Martin Truex. I mean, I had some people calling me and say, was it crazy that Joey Logano took out Martin? I'm like, he didn't take Martin out. Martin still had a chance to win that race. He just bumped him and moved him off the track and on the inside of him. And then to me, it looked like Martin picked the throttle up too soon and got loose. Martin still could have beat him off that corner and won that race. How do you see that move? Did you see it dirty, or do you see it as a clean move?
Well, you gotta be careful how you answer it, because I get a bonus for him doing that myself. So I'm but you look at it and I'll start by saying, if Martin, rule number uno from quarter midget racing, you learn it in quarter midget racing, you keep the guy up there. You keep him up there and you don't give him the chance to do it. You learn that in quarter midget racing. Keep him hanging on your right rear. You don't let him in. So Martin cleared him. It's down in distance. You got to understand the guy you're racing. Joey's got a checkered past to going after race wins. If Martin didn't know that was coming, he's the only person in Martinsville or on national TV that didn't know it was coming. When he got there, I feel like if he would have just throttled up and went straight, it would have been a very tight race at the line that he probably would have had momentum and won. But he hooked the left. And when he hooked the left is when he lost all his momentum and Joey kind of monster trucked him. So, situational. Logano's only chance to make it to the Final Four with his point situation was that race. He puts himself in the position and he goes and wins the freaking championship because of that. The problem, I think, with all of motorsports right now, and especially social media, is when people don't like the outcome of the race and they don't like the guy that won. And this is exactly verbatim. This is a quote from Joey Logano on Monday when I talked to him. If Chase Elliott did the same freaking move, it'd be the best move in NASCAR history. That's what he said. And it's true. It's true. But, and I said something to a guy on Facebook the other day about this. They're bashing the system. They're bashing this. He only won 3 races. He doesn't deserve it. When you don't like the outcome of a race, don't bash the sport, because it gives everybody a black eye. If you don't like the outcome of how something happened, don't get on there and talk about the track. Don't get on there and talk about the tire or this or that or anything. The promoters, just figure out how to win. And that's if people are still talking about the old system, then why don't we just go back and race Luminas? It's not the same.
Yeah, we touched base on this before, so.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year or at any race, it's the same as I had this conversation when they announced the roll, and I got a lot of guys, were especially engineers and people within the sport, were frustrated that we were going to run this race. But I've said it from day one, and no matter if you're racing factory stocks at Wall Stadium and they change from radials to Hoosiers like they did a couple of years ago, or they take a mile and a half and they make you run through the infield, or they tell you that this is the chase format. At the beginning of the year, for that chase format, everybody knows what it is. And you have to figure out a way to win the championship. At the beginning of the race at the Roval, there's a green flag and there's a checkered. And through that race, there's going to be one guy that figures out how to win it. and then there's going to be guys that figure out how to bitch about it. And I could guarantee you who's going to be more successful. So it's always been the same, whether you're racing midgets around a Coke-Syrup hockey rink or you're, racing motocross. Whatever you're racing, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a guy that figures out how to do it. And that's part of the sport.
Now, you just said we can't blame the promoter, the racetrack, NASCAR, the tire. Can we still at least blame the spotter?
Yeah, always. Blame my motto for everything is blame pockets.
I don't have a spotter. I have no one to blame.
I blame Hot Pockets for not running good in the SK car last year. And if I have a problem on Friday or Sunday, I'll blame Pockets for that.
I'm going to also. So
yeah,
I miss
Eric. Blame Pockets.
Yeah,
I miss Eric Graham being my spotter. He was all of our spotter at the same time.
He spotted the whole division.
You have to admit, he was pretty good at that.
Yeah. It's a little after 11 now, and we're going to let you get going here. I'm looking forward to racing with you. I'm all set up. My car's run pretty good. I got a fresh Martino motor in there, and it ran good at Spooky. Unfortunately, the jet fell out of the carburetor the one race in Spooky, and so it's going to be ultra competitive. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there.
Cool. I'll see you guys there and look forward to it.
I just wanted to say, Ryan, you said before, people think, well, you guys move down south and you forget about who you are, where you came from. You are definitely not one of those people. I mean, I talk to you at least once a month on the phone, and you know your history, you know where you came from. And when Bailey first started racing, you got her hooked up on off access, and we got a beautiful helmet, painted by the same people that paint the cup helmets and stuff. So, you definitely didn't forget where you come from. And I hope you do good this weekend.
I appreciate that. Put a good word in for me with Scooter, all right?
Hey, Ryan, one quick last question before you get off. You have this TQ midget. Is there nowhere to race that down south by where you live? They don't race them anywhere down there?
No, that's a misconception. There's not much short track racing in the Charlotte area unless you're racing a dirt late model or Inca modified. The short track scene is stronger up here in the Northeast than it is down there.
Right.
So I wish there was.
What about, did you ever think about doing any of those races like out in Indiana and stuff? Don't they race them indoors out there also?
Yeah, they did. I could have raced that car there a couple years back, but Mark Laffler brought a car there with Eric Rudolph and kicked everybody's ass so bad they outlawed all of them. So.
Oh, really?
So I'm it works out with my schedule. And really, the reason that we got the TQ is, we're racers. I try to get the Flores family to Christmas or Thanksgiving and good luck. But I go to the racetrack and they all show up. So it's more of a family reunion, and we're just lucky to run well. So it's fun.
All right, Ryan, we're going to let you get going, and we really appreciate you coming on. And hopefully you can come and visit us a couple more times over the winter.
Sounds good. I will. I'll see you out there. Have a good one.
Friday.
Thank you. Take care. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Ryan. Thanks. See ya.
Once again, everybody, that was Ryan Flores. He will be driving the number 14 factory stock out of the Monjo stables at Turkey Derby in factory stock competition Friday and Sunday. On a personal note, before we wrap things up, I just want to say to everybody who will be at the track this weekend, I want to wish you all the best of luck. A huge thank you to the Kraus family over the years for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of Turkey Derby on a large level. This is the first time since 2012 I haven't been fortunate enough to announce an event there, and the first time since 2007 I haven't been able to attend a Turkey Derby event. Made a push to try to get home. Unfortunately, things didn't work out, but I wish everybody up there the best, and I promise you the racing product will be intense. If you are on the fence about going and braving the cold, I want to encourage everybody who has a chance to go to Wall Stadium Speedway this weekend to go. You will not regret it for all 3 days.
They have hot chocolate and hot coffee and like chili. You'll be fine.
I got pork roll.
Orange chowder.
Yeah, and Scott and we'll have food, and there'll be food everywhere. It'll be fine.
Great time.
But I will tell you to bundle up. I was over there tonight dropping my race cars off. Man, that wind was blowing through there like crazy. It was so cold over there when I was dropping my race car off. I stopped at Walmart on my way home and bought a new winter coat, a winter hat, some gloves.
I'm wearing my fire suit and his old one over top.
The wind was brutal over there tonight, and hopefully the weather changes for the better here, and we have a great weekend of racing.
How's that antifreeze in your car doing, Scott?
You know what? I know the rule says no antifreeze. I'm going to tell you right now. There's antifreeze in my race car.
There's antifreeze in everybody's race car.
Yeah, if you don't have antifreeze in your race car, your car's not going to start Friday morning when it's time to go out on the racetrack. And that's a funny. We were telling some Russ Cook stories before, and I got a quick one. We showed up at Derby one time, and he was pitting next to me. When I started my car up, I was letting it warm up. He started his car up. He's letting it warm up. I'm sitting there. I'm like, Russ, I smell rubber burn, and there's smoke coming out from underneath your hood. No way. I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you. We opened the hood up. His fan belt's going around the water pump pulley, but the water pump pulley ain't moving. It was frozen solid, man.
I was pitted like 2 cars away from a 4-cylinder a couple years ago, and they followed the rules, and their block froze, and I think it pushed something out, and yeah, they I don't know, they like JB welded something to try to get it out.
They Elliott Walled it?
There's been plenty of times at Turkey Derby you see people running around for propane, like the torpedo kerosene type heaters, you know, and start blowing right on their engine block. I'm like, yep, that guy didn't put it in the freezer.
Yeah, that rule should not exist for Turkey Derby.
Yeah, I think it's a environment
thing.
So also with the local stuff, I want to mention Kyle Taraska. He's been on the show a few times. Rookie of the Year for the ATQMRA. So congrats on that, and looking forward to see him race at Turkey Derby as well. I mean, we went over a lot of the Turkey Derby stuff. The factory stocks are going. I mean, I'll let Eric do a quick rundown of that in a minute. A couple things we wanted to hit really quick here, because I know we're running long with time. National news on the sadder side of things. David Pearson, 3-time NASCAR champion, passed away. What did you have here, Eric? 105 wins.
Yeah, that was. I mean, he was getting up there in age. I don't believe he was sick, but 105 wins, 3 championships in total for Pearson. NASCAR did a great job honoring him all weekend long, so that was good to see.
I agree.
You know what's the amazing part about him having 105 wins? He didn't run full seasons very often. There was times he only where Richard Petty would run all the short track stuff. David Pearson would just run the super speedway and the big track stuff. And I really truly believe if he would have ran more full season schedules, he would have had a few more championships as well.
Richard Petty said on one of the shows last week that if David Pearson ran the whole race, all the races, he wouldn't have 7 championships.
Okay, yeah.
But I also heard Richard Petty say that, because someone said that to Richard Petty in an interview, and he had a great answer. You know, someone said, if David Pearson would have ran more full-time schedules, you want to have 7 championships. He's like, yeah, you know what, though? He didn't, and I did, and that's why I have the 7 championships. And I thought that was a great answer.
It's that commitment. Tragedy down in Sebring. A Jet Dragster driver, Cat Miller, only 24 years old. Apparently, we don't know any more details on it, but it was a Jet Dragster. She crashed somewhere towards the end of the quarter mile, and unfortunately lost her life in that incident. Something else amazing that I can't believe it wasn't worse. I'm sure we've all seen that video of that F3 crash with Sophia Flores. I'm probably not saying that right. 17 years old. I've never seen a car become a missile like that before.
I know, that was like a rocket.
That actually, to me, looked worse than Wiccan's crash at Pocono. I mean, it looked worse, but she did have a spinal fracture, but otherwise is going to be okay. They're not worried about any spinal cord damage. She's going to be able to walk and everything like that just fine.
Yeah, she's been on Twitter, good spirits. I'm fine.
I can't believe she's alive.
Yeah.
After that.
That wreck was so freaky and weird. When the first couple of times I watched it, I thought it was fake. I thought it was like a video game, like someone put a video up of their video game wrecking, and then I'm like, wait, this was real? That was a real accident? I've never seen a race car hit like the 3rd story of a building.
And I can't believe that anybody else didn't get killed.
Yeah, down below.
It was the 2 cameramen, photographers rather, up on that photographer stand, which makes me immediately think of Indianapolis. But one suffered a concussion, another had a lacerated liver, and then I believe two marshals were injured. One had facial fractures and such. Now, I forget the name of the other driver that she hit as she was launching off the sausage curb. It hit the roll hoop of that car, and you can see the tire mark, and how lucky that driver was that the wheel didn't hit his helmet, because I mean, there's no halo on these cars or anything like that. So, but all around, that could have been so terrible that the injuries that, while still suck, are so much better than what it could have been. And like Scott said, it seemed unreal. It seemed fake. And thankfully, a lot of people recorded it from a ton of different angles, so you can see. But I have to say, that photographer stand was pretty darn well built to hold up to that.
When I saw that, I was like, there is no way.
Oh,
No
I thought
way.
I thought for sure she was dead, but
Yeah.
thankfully she's not. Eric, I'll let you take this last one with the Supercross.
Yeah, we just don't have to notice. So the only thing that gets me through the off season is typically Supercross, which starts first week in January.
And beer.
And that's every day. Weston Pike, who was riding for Joe Gibbs Racing, he was severely injured in a crash in Paris. In fact, suffered multiple facial fractures, including a dual separation of the jaw from his skull, which is just terrifying to think of. However, the good news is no.
Similar to what was the truck driver?
Yeah, the Stadium Super Truck driver. I think his name was Mangay or something like that.
Right.
The good news for Pike, no brain or spinal injuries. However, there is a GoFundMe account that has been set up by his fiance if anybody wants to help contribute to his long road to recovery. And a side note to that, it seems that we don't know where we're going to be able to see Supercross yet in 2019, as Fox elected not to renew their television rights. This, according to Adam Stern of the Sports Business Journal. NBC Sports is favored to be picking that up as they're trying to monopolize motorsports broadcasting, it seems, which is great because they do a great job.
Yeah, I do like NBC Sports. I'm kind of annoyed that ESPN has F1.
Yeah, well, they give you the Sky Sports version of it. So
I don't like that as much. Other than the no commercials.
Another thing with NBC Sports, I just recently put the NBC Sports app on my phone. They do a lot of cool stuff for racing on that app as well. I mean, there's times if practice might not be on TV, but it's on your phone, and it's pretty cool. They do a great job with it.
Yeah, that's how we've been living with it here because I don't have cables, so we've been utilizing like Fire Sticks and Roku's and stuff like that.
Fire Stick is awesome.
Services.
Although, speaking of the app, the Bowman Gray atrocity, that's Bowman Gray is an atrocity. That show, I forget the name of it, that was on Discovery Channel.
Race Night at Bowman Gray, it's called now.
Okay, it got moved to Velocity, and now they've moved it to the app. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I read today, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, they're just limiting further and further.
It's going further and further down. It went from the flag.
Just put it on Netflix.
But you know what's crazy about that? They didn't even give it. I tell you what, I enjoy the show. I thought it was really good. They really didn't give it a chance. I mean, the third episode, they're already knocking it down. I mean, give them at least 6. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
They listened to me. That's that. Anyway. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean. Personally, for me, yeah, I don't really care. I know a lot of people seem to be upset about it, and for racing in general, yes, but I don't like promoting the Bowman Gray product because I think it puts racing as we know it in a bad light. That's all I'm saying.
You'll be surprised how many producers from other television networks are looking at other ventures in motorsports right now. MTV had a big thing looking for race teams to follow.
Okay.
That you needed to like fill out some application. One of my friends is a producer. He works for MTV and Discovery. He was actually talking to me and wanted some input. So there definitely is some interest in the television reality world to follow some race teams around. So
well, that's kind of like I know they did a short documentary on Hinchcliffe's coming back from that injury from Indianapolis. They did the Scott Dixon, was it the Bourne racer? Eric, you might remember that. Okay, so I agree. and hopefully there are more things like that in motorsports. I was just sad.
There's also that NASCAR wives show coming on too.
CMT, they're doing a race with Samantha Bush.
I would avoid that like the Black Death. I would hear that.
I do know when my bosses heard any conversation about reality TV, and they were like, you do know if you get involved in anything like that, you cannot work here.
But you know what? I feel bad for the Bowman Gray guys because I know like Burt Myers and Tim Brown and all those guys. Some of their sponsorship hinges on that show, you know, and they do make a little bit of money off it to go racing with. So it might hurt them in the pocketbook a little bit. And I know, Josh, you're not a huge fan of the Bowman Gray, but this show wasn't as bad as Madhouse. They weren't really focusing on the fighting and yelling and screaming as much as they were. It was more about the racing and stuff. And I really enjoyed the show. I heard
something about really bad sound effects.
Yeah, but that was only one episode. Like, They put in like monster truck motor sounds.
Somebody said it was the
so that was bad, but that was only one episode.
Somebody was saying it was the soundtrack from Cars, the Disney movie.
After the first episode, I actually had a question for Jason Myers, and I Facebook messaged him, and he answered me right away.
Oh, good.
Which was really cool.
Who answered you faster, Greg Biffle or Myers?
Actually, I've been talking to Greg Biffle's girlfriend. So they've actually been, she's like the middleman between me, Greg, and him. So
okay, all right.
Now Bowman Gray was just sold too. Like
they're redoing it or something. They're
parking lot.
No, that town is
they said racing will continue there.
I know. They're talking about repaving the track and everything.
Yeah, the town is actually reinvesting.
They invested like $9 million, I think they said, into revitalizing it. But I mean, that'll also probably include the football field aspect of it as well, which is.
I'm trying to get in there so bad. I'm trying
to announce.
Yeah, they get like 10,000 people a night. I mean, it's crazy.
Eric Brennan for the Triple B 100 announcer.
Working on it.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up. It's 11:30.
The last couple things. There was a video went kind of viral. Alexander Rossi running Baja, the Baja 1000. There was I guess a fan coming the opposite way on the road that is part of the track. And Rossi basically does a jump, like all four wheels off the ground or whatever, clips and breaks the mirror off of this other this oncoming car. Luckily, honestly, if it was over a foot or two, or at all different, he would have destroyed that car, killed the people in it. It was rough. Yeah, and then the one breaking thing is Fernando Alonso returning to the Indy 500. That's been confirmed. So just wanted that out there. And then we have other stuff that's going to be coming up. We have,
we got a lot of.
Don't give me that heart.
I got a fight in the morning. That's the only reason why
You got a fight? Who are you going to fight?
No, flight.
I just want to mention one quick thing. After Turkey Derby and over the winter, I'll talk a little bit more about my Florida trip and my trip to New Smyrna. But I did try the boiled peanuts, and Josh, you're 100% right. A boiled peanut basically turns into a mushy bean.
I told him he's staying in New Smyrna.
I tell you what, it's a great value though. $6 for boiled peanuts at New Smyrna Speedway, and they gave you a bucket full of them. I mean, a human cannot eat this whole bucket of peanuts. There's so many peanuts.
Tim, he was staying at Betty's.
But the funny part was they sell them in Cajun and regular. So I told the girl, I said, listen, I'm from New Jersey, and I have never had a boiled peanut. She's like, well, I can give you both. I can give you half regular peanuts and half Cajun flavor. I'm like, okay, that's great. So I'm thinking she's going to put the Cajun peanuts in the bottom and then the regular ones on top. Well, she puts the regular peanuts on the bottom of the bucket and the Cajun ones on top. So I'm like, well, now they're all Cajun because it's like
it's just good.
It's all regular peanuts.
You really should have went Facebook Live.
But I did try them. They're not. The Cajun ones are definitely better than the regular ones because at least you have some flavor. But they are just, like you said, they turn into a mushy bean.
I look at mushrooms like that, just like gooey dirt. There's no point. I don't know. I don't like mushrooms. Sorry.
But it's just weird. They don't really sell in North Carolina, but as soon as you get the South.
Oh, I lost Scott for a second.
I was just saying, it's just weird how, like, driving down 95, like, you don't see him in North Carolina, but as soon as you hit South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, that's where there's
there were signs, like, all down 95.
Bailey and Alexis
Like,
love boiled peanuts. That's those things when we go in the truck stop. They're in the crock pots, the peanuts that stink like dirt.
They're looking at me like liver mush.
I did drop the ball because they do sell them in there for $10 for a can of them, like a big can of them, and I was going to buy them for you guys on the way back, but everywhere we stopped, they didn't have them, but I did see them on the way down. I should have grabbed them, but you're not missing out on anything, trust me.
I will take your word for it.
That was my question for Eric. Have you tried liver mush yet?
No, I haven't.
Really?
He probably never will.
No, I'll try anything once I got a few drinks in me.
I tried twice.
I should have said that.
Okay, yep.
That's not what I meant.
On that note, Eric.
Where's Elliot Wall putting it in? What?
What have
you learned?
What have we learned today, Tim?
I learned that Ryan Flores can talk a lot.
Boy.
He's good at it.
Yeah, that's really it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Alexis, Bailey, you guys learn anything?
I just understand.
What? Oh, okay.
Well, I learned more about Russ Cook and Ryan Flores' backstory.
Good. Anything else? No? Okay. Eric, what have you learned?
That Greg Biffle's a badass, and I love it. He's, again, like I said to him at the end of the interview, if you want to look up definition of a true racer, I think what Biffle has been doing for the last 2 years defines it entirely. So it's as grassroots as it gets. I love it.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
No? Okay. Scott, what have you learned?
That Eric Brennan is still alive. He's still alive. He's still living and breathing, and he's back on the RPM podcast, and he still loves us.
And he didn't break your heart today.
He didn't break my heart today. I was all ready for it, too. I'm like, he's going to break my heart.
And thank God you were on here to do Biffle, because we would have killed that episode, I'm sure.
Probably, especially without Sam, too.
But, you know, it's nice that Eric came back. Now let's see if he comes back next week. You know, get a good look at Eric, because we might not see him for a couple
After Turkey Derby.
I know. I'll be back. I promise I'll be back.
Nancy, what have you learned?
Haley's yelling at me to go to bed.
All right, tell her 1 minute. Say, damn it, woman.
I've learned no matter how far you've gone in racing, you always go back to your roots. Scott ran modifieds and trucks. Greg Biffle ran cups, trucks, and here they are. They're going backyard racing. So that's where it's at.
Nice. Today I learned that Greg Biffle will put bricks in your car if it's too nice.
Maybe Wall Stadium needs that rule too.
I'm still thinking about bringing my enduro.
I also learned that Greg Biffle doesn't have insurance, but he does have a waiver. I learned that Ryan
I can't
Flores.
believe you asked him that question too. I'm like, oh boy, that's a little personal.
It's curious.
But it's not New Jersey. It's North Carolina.
Yeah. I learned that Ryan Flores will do whatever it takes to win if he's up front.
Watch it, Riggleman.
I learned that Scott painted his car black to get past the Eagle Eye system, and I learned that Logano says, hey, like RuPaul.
I did learn.
I also learned that Ryan has a great impression of Logano.
Yeah, he does.
That's true.
I did
That's
learn
true.
some. Like we were just saying before that, you know, Greg Biffle's a normal guy, and you guys were talking about how nobody likes Joey Logano when Ryan started. He's a normal guy, too. Here he won the Cup Championship 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, and he's already worried about cleaning out his storage shed so Ryan can get in there or whatever it was, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's a normal guy.
That is a good point. That's a very
And I'm
good
sure if Biffle called Logano tomorrow and said, hey, come drive one of my cars for the Triple B, he would probably be out there too.
That's all right. We got
If his contract allows it.
If his contract allows.
All right, wrap it up, Eric.
Well, it is good to be back, and I am back for good. I promise you that. I said earlier to everybody who's going to be at Turkey Derby, please be safe, please stay warm, please have fun, and please support the hell out of that racetrack. It's a great place, and I want to see it around for as long as possible. with that, thank you, Scott and Nancy, for setting us up with Greg. That was amazing. Thank you for making the trip, Tim, Alexis, and Bailey, because I know that that's going to be a hellacious drive back home, possibly with the holiday traffic. Josh, great to be with you once again. Scott, good luck this weekend. Thank you to Greg Biffle. Thank you to Ryan Flores. And thank you to all of our listeners. Don't forget to check us out on all the social media platforms. We'll tell you more about it all throughout the rest of the racing season. On behalf of everybody with the RPM podcast, I'm Eric Brennan. Good night. Happy Thanksgiving. And please, this weekend, go to Wall. Good night, everybody.
Go to Wall for Turkey Derby.